ADDICTS. Like, hey, Scoob, did you hear Nikki Blake is hosting a Scooby-Doo panel? No. Yeah. Like on today's Scooby-Doo episode, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy meet Nikki Blake. Yeah, in a Scooby Panel. Like, we need to get this puppy started. Okay, Nikki Blake, take it away, Scooby-Doo.
Welcome to the Scooby Panel. I'm your host, Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com, and today we'll be speaking with 50-year animation veteran, James Tim Walker. I'm joined by Wendy BRYDGE, Cameron Bates, Will Davenport, and of course, James Tim Walker. So thank you all for joining us. And our first question for you is, can you tell us how you became interested in art?
Well, that's a good question. Hi, everybody. Glad to see you and glad to be able to participate in this today. When I was young, very young, probably 4 or 5 years old, I had two older brothers. I was the youngest, and we were being babysat by my grandparents. My parents were out somewhere or somehow, I don't know what. But we were being babysat by my grandparents, and we were running around the house causing havoc and all that nonsense. And I ran by the TV set. And I remember coming to a dead stop. Something caught me on the corner of my eye. I caught something on the corner of my eye. I came to a stop and I came back and I looked at it and I said, "What's that? What's that? What's that?" And it was a cartoon. I was hooked, man. I was hooked. "What is that?" And my grandfather to me, "It's a cartoon." "How did they do that? How did they do that?" I kept asking these questions. How did they do that? Well, I was, that's it. Doctor, lawyer, Indian-in-chief, no way. I'm going to be an animator, and there's no two ways about it. That's what I'm going to do. And I like to think I picked up a pencil that day. I probably picked up a pencil within a month. And my parents said I would draw all the time. We would go on vacation. My father owned a sliding glass door factory. And the interesting part of that was they had salesmen all over the country, right? And the salesmen would come here in the summertime, and the parents my dad and the salesman would go to the office up in Burbank, and my mother and the mother of the kids who came out here, and all of us would go to Disneyland. So I spent like years. I was in Disneyland 80 times in the first month, probably. It seems like. I grew up in Disneyland. Anyway, and that really got me hooked into animation too. But anyway, that's another story. So I started drawing. All the time. I love drawing. I watched cartoons. I went to grade school right around the corner of where I lived, and I went to high school. I D'd and F'd my way through high school because I don't care. I would get the test papers to do, and I would turn the test over and I would draw on the back of the test, and I'd turn the test in. I wouldn't do the test because I didn't care. I'm going to be an animator. I don't care. I'm not going to be involved in this. I'm not going to waste my time. I learn how to draw. So I learned how to draw. I went to, when I was in grade school, a guy moved in next door to us, to my parents. And I grew up on a cul-de-sac of about, and it was the mid-1950s. And I was born in 1948, so you do the math, I'm old. I was raised on a cul-de-sac. There must have been 35 kids between babies and 10 years old. There must have been tons of them. This guy moved in next door to us. He was the head of publicity for Channel 7, ABC, the entire West Coast. Well, that's everywhere from the Mississippi River west. So he would naturally, the families met and the families socialized together, and all the families on the block would have cocktail parties and all that, because that's what they did in the 50s. Well, the guy came over to our house one day and he says to me, "Tim, you're going to love this new show. It's going to be on ABC this year. It's done by the same guys that do Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear, and it's going to be called The Flintstones." And so I knew about the Flintstones like 6 months before it ever hit the air. But what was more important was he said to me that Hanna-Barbera Studios was right in this, he pulled it past, right near where I went to grade school. And so I got a map out and I looked at the map and I figured out that I could ride my bike to Hanna-Barbera Studios, right? I'm 10 years old. So I rode my bike up there on a Saturday morning, first Saturday I went up there. I opened up the trash can and there were thousands of cells and backgrounds that they were throwing away, thousands. And I dumpster dove at Hanna-Barbera for 12 years probably. And I had cells, original hand inked cells, beautiful cells on the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Top Cat, Huck Hound, Yogi Bear, Quick Draw McGraw, Johnny Quest. The most beautiful Johnny Quest stuff you've ever seen in your life. It was just incredible. But I had them. I carried them home on my knapsack. I had stacks of them all over my room. All over my room. There was all kinds of stuff. So I had them. And now here's the big question: do you have them today? No, I'm not that smart. I don't have them today. I have some, but not many. But what I did was, when I got those cells, I got them for free. I was an impressionable kid. And man, it really made me want to be an animation man. So I really knuckled down and started drawing. And I went to Chenard Art School, which was where all the great Disney animators went when they were doing Snow White and Fantasia and that stuff. All of them went there. And I went 3 years at Chenard Art School, and then it became California Institute of the Arts, which I'm sure you guys have probably heard of. I graduated from the first graduation class of Cal Arts. So anyway, I don't want to get too far into this because it's going to lead into a whole bunch of other stories. But that's how I got interested in art. I mean, it was not art per se. It was animation that I was crazy about. I didn't want to be a painter or illustrator or anything. I just wanted to do animation, and that's what I did. So, and I can tell you the very first thing I worked on, I'll tell you this, I'll stop this right at this point. The very first thing I worked on, 1964, you guys remember a TV show called Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea with Richard Basehart? It was an old black and white, it was about a submarine. And you have to see it on like one of the nostalgia stations or something. But if you see the opening titles, if you ever watch it, you'll see there's a radar screen. And there's a white line that animates around like this, like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, starring Richard Basehart. And well, I worked on that line. An animator did the main ones, and I had to make sure there's a little white dot in the middle of the cell where it's on the thing on the screen. And I had to make sure when I put those, it was tape they put down. It's literally little strips of tape. I had to make sure that tape was inside that white circle. Otherwise, there'd be a flash, a camera flash, and you'd see it would ruin the effect. So. Anyway, that was 1964. I worked from 1964 to 2014, 50 years.
Wow.
So my very first thing I worked on was the Voyage to the Sea. So that's as far as I'm going to go on that. You can tell me or ask me whatever else you want me to do.
You've had a great career. You've worked on so many different things. I was looking at your IMDb page, and I couldn't find anything you really haven't worked on. So it's impressive. You've done a lot over the 50 years.
When I animated at Hanna-Barbera, I animated on 2 or 3 features, but I didn't like working on features because you had to work over and over and over again and do something over and over again. And I like TV. I like because it's fast and furious, and you just do it and go on to the next one. Do it and go on to the next one. And my attitude was nobody's doing anything so great, motion, film-wise or animation-wise, that I have to be working on it. So I said, give me film and give me all you got. Give me TV, give me all you got. I worked at every studio in this town just about. Probably a couple I didn't, but almost everyone in Hanna-Barbera was my favorite by a long shot. I can go into that later.
Can you tell us what some of the obstacles that have made it difficult to do your job and how you overcame them?
Well, I always had a great work ethic. I always had a great work ethic. I don't know where I got it from. I love cartoons. I love animation. So you want to pay me to do this? How blessed is that? I knew people that would pay the studio to let them work there if they could. But like all these people have a hard time getting into the business. They try and they do. I just walked right in. I waltzed right in. I just like everything fell into place. It was like it was meant to be. It fell into place. Jane Barbera used to tell me, Tim, there are people that love this industry, and you have it in your blood. It's in your blood, this industry. So I had a great work ethic, and I always realized But if you get if you get a handout of animation or exposure sheets to direct or whatever on a Monday, and it's due the following Monday, you have to have it all finished by the following Monday. Well, I always turn it in like Thursday night or Friday morning. I always turn it in early, always, never late, never, because they won't remember all the stuff you did on time. They'll remember that one time you were late. So I never screwed up with budgets. Now the biggest thing, I hope I can get through this without breaking down. The biggest thing that ever happened to me was in 2008. I was diagnosed with lateral Parkinson's disease on my right side, and I'm right-handed, and it destroyed my ability to draw, and that destroyed me, absolutely destroyed me. I was devastated. So I left that doctor's office. I was destroyed. I was destroyed. Now I will tell you, I will confide in you that I'm a member of a 12-step group that keeps me clean and sober. I'm clean and sober 22 plus years now. At that point, I was clean and sober 8 years. And I was ready for a drink. I'm telling you. I mean, I'm screwed because I can't draw, I can't write. I got kids, I got a mortgage, I got bills. What am I going to do? Well, I'm not preaching religion. I'm only talking about me here. I only know about me. I don't know about anyone else. But I said, look at God, I need help, and I need help right now. I can't do this. I'm not strong enough to do this. I need help. I'm convinced that a power greater than self help me out. And, I'm convinced me to be of service in everything I do to help other people. And by the way, you have a left hand. I went to the bookstore, I bought a sketchbook, and for the first time in my life, I opened up the book, and on the top of the page, I wrote drawings from the left. And I taught myself to draw and write left-handed and saved a career. That's the biggest thing that ever happened to me, and that's pretty big. People tell me it's pretty big. But I was going to do abstract if I had to, or whatever. But I was going to learn to draw by hook or by crook. I went back to my boss the day I was come from the doctor. I said, Howard, I can't draw or write left-handed. I'm going to learn a right hand. I'm going to learn to do it left-handed. And he said to me, Tim, I'm not paying you for beautiful calligraphy. I'm paying you for what you know. As long as I can read what you write, you're here. And I said, thank you, God, for a step in the right direction. And I did it. I taught myself to draw right left-handed. That was like, it's 22 years. Well, 22 years ago, I was diagnosed with it. And gosh, I mean, you do the math. It was a long time ago. It seems like. But this is last September or August. I went to Stanford University, Stanford University on the West Coast, at the forefront of Parkinson's disease in the world. My neurologist set up an appointment for me up there because they had heard about me and they'd heard about the artwork I had been doing left-handed. So I went up there and they interviewed me and they put me through these tests and stuff. And they looked at my artwork and they said to me, do you understand the magnitude of what you have accomplished here? This is nothing short of a miracle. You have defeated this disease by hitting it straight on by doing this artwork. And they thought my attitude was suited. I've always had a great attitude. I have no room for pessimism. I'm optimistic. I live in acceptance and gratitude. Acceptance and gratitude. I accept I have two lousy diseases, alcoholism and Parkinson's disease. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I can do anything. And I blew people away with my artwork for some reason. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. So I did it left-handed. I got an operation at Stanford called deep brain stimulus. I don't know if you guys know about this operation. It's for people with Parkinson's disease. I don't mean to go on the track, but this will just take a minute. I'll be done with it. They operated on my brain. They drilled two small holes into your brain. They put two electrodes into your brain and they hook them up to a battery pack like a pacemaker. Now my nervous system is stimulated through electrical impulse of the battery pack, where yours is stimulated by the chemicals your brain makes. Mine no longer makes those chemicals. So I have Parkinson's disease. And Parkinson's disease does not cause the shaking and everything. What causes the shaking are the meds reaction, your body's reaction to the meds. So with this new device in my brain, I can cut out probably half of my meds and it stopped a lot of the shaking, a lot of it. So that's where that is. it's kind of a long story, not enough, but that's the one thing that kept me from, I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue or not. I honestly didn't know. But I mean, I was going to give it my best shot, and I did. And that's the only thing. I was, when I did directing exposure shoots in town, I was the best and fastest director in this town. My phone would ring off the hook for people that wanted me to work for them all the time. And a lot of people in this industry do freelance work. So like you work at Disney's during the day, and then you do freelance for Hanna-Barbera or Warner Bros. So there's a lot of freelance in this town. I did a ton of freelance, a ton of it. But I'll get into that later. So yeah, I hope that's good enough for you.
You have a book of your drawings from your left hand. I was watching a video that your son did about you, and in that video he kind of showed some of the pictures in that book, and I mean they're just amazing. It's amazing that you were able to learn to draw with your left hand. I can't even write with my left hand. Like,
well, I'm convinced that when the you know what hits the road, you're capable of great things. Not because I did anything so great, but I believe the human spirit is great. You can do great things when push comes to shove. You can really keep doing it. So I'm just grateful I could do it. And this is like one I did the other day for my grandson River.
Ah, that's cute.
I love it.
Oh,
Oh, it's beautiful.
He loves animals and he's autistic. So I do all these animals for him. Anyway, that's just.
They're wonderful.
Yeah, I've been blessed. I have been so blessed. I lived my dream. I really lived my dream. I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't have to do anything else. I survived. I had a good living and I had a good house for my kids and to grow up in, and it was all good. So, okay. Would you want to hear about China and my experiences in the Near East or South America or any of that kind of stuff? I don't have any Bob Nessler experiences. I'm kidding. He knows I'm kidding. I love him. He's a great guy. We've had a lot of fun over the years.
He's a good guy. I've had some people that know him that have sent me some stories of him that are just so crazy and things that you would never think somebody would do. But I mean, these people were there with him, and it's just, it's incredible.
Well, you want to see I suppose you guys all have this book, don't you?
Yeah.
You all have this book?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's nice.
Well, the reason I have this book is because, I got to tell you about the first time I met Mr. Barbera. Yeah, that's a good story. I was 10 years old in the dumpster at Hanna-Barbera, taking the cells out. And I hear this, "Get out of that trash can, you knothead." And I put my head up and I looked in, it's Joe, Mr. Barbera. Of course, I didn't know who he was at the time, right? And so I got out of the trash can and I think I put the cells back in and he left. And when he left, I came back and got the cells going out again. So, but many years later, they had a birthday party for him at Warner Bros. You see, Hanna-Barbera was bought by Taft Entertainment, and Taft Entertainment sold it, and then Ted Turner bought it at the end. And Ted Turner merged with Time Warner. And so Hanna-Barbera became under the corporate umbrella of Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers would give Joe and Bill a birthday party whenever their birthdays come up. And they did one for Joe, and they shot video of all the people who were still around from the old studio. So they interviewed me, and I said, "Hey, Mr. B, happy birthday. It's great to be here and celebrate your birthday. I bet you can't remember the first time we met." And I tell the story about being in a trash can. Everybody loves it. They love hearing that story. And I think he got a little twinkle in his eye, and I think he kind of thought that that's kind of cool that a kid that grew up in the trash can that wanted to be an animator and got it, and he worked for us, and he had a long run. It was kind of a nice thing. I think he kind of thought that. I don't know for sure, but he kind of thought that. And here's what I have here. Let me just show you this real quick. I can't do anything quick, right? I said quick. You see this autograph here?
Oh, wow.
It says, "Get the hell out of that trash dumpster." Joe Barbera and Bill Hanna. So I've kept this book. I almost gave this book away. I almost gave it away one time, and I realized that was in there. And I thought, oh, I can't give it away. That's in there. So,
Oh, that's funny. That's great.
okay. All right, next.
Can you walk us through how you got started with your career and just the highlights of your career?
Well, I got started by just, I was working at a guy, Murakami Wolf Films. The guy lived on the corner in the block I grew up on, Fred Wolf. And I was a gopher working for a summer at their studio. And that's where I did the 20,000, Towards the Bottom of the Sea titles. And that's how I first got into business. And I started doing in-betweens, which are the in-betweens are. They're the first things that you do on the, if you want to be an animator. You learn how to in-between, then you become an assistant, and you become an animator, and so inclined. So you do all the in-between drawings. I learned how to do in-betweens, and I worked there at Murakami Wolf. And then I worked on a feature called Shinbone Allen. You can see it on YouTube. It was done by Fine Arts Films, and it's very much like Crazy Cat. If you're familiar with the comic strip Crazy Cat, that's one of the greatest comic strips of all time. But this was kind of designed like Crazy Cat. And I got a job there. I took my portfolio in there, and I got a job there. That was the next thing I did. And then I started around 1969 or 70. I got hired by Ed Love, who was a great animator, great master animator from Disney's. He did the Brooms and Mickey and Fantasia. And he worked for Tex Avery. He did all the wild stuff on Tex Avery's cartoons, that Preston Blair and Love and that. So I worked for Ed Love on the Harlem Globetrotters, and which was a heck of a show to work on, but it was harder than hell to draw because it was hard to do all those characters. You start moving those characters around with real faces and stuff. You get slightly off and they start to lose, they look weird. It's very hard to do. So I worked with, I was an assistant for Ed Love on C-Lab 2020, Where's Huddles? It was a football show, I think. What else? C-Lab 2020, Roman Holidays was one. Let's see. So that's where I got started. You just kind of keep going. Like I worked at Hanna-Barbera. I went to Filmation in '70 for a while. The Brady Kids or something like that. The Brady Bunch or something like that, I think it was. And Fat Albert, of course, I worked on that. And then I came back to Hanna-Barbera and I worked on Smurfs. Smurfs might have been born, but maybe not. But probably did some Scooby around in there someplace. I don't know what. But then the Smurfs started up in '80, and that went for about 6 years. I went to Disney's in '88, and I worked on the DuckTales, Tailspin, Chippendales Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck, Aladdin, a lot of that stuff, and a lot of stuff from Cartoon Network. So one of the shows I worked on that I loved at Cartoon Network was Samurai Jack. I thought that was a beautiful show. God, the design was terrific. And all young guys doing it too, young guys and gals that did a great job. So I hope that answers your question.
Does. And you won a Lifetime Achievement Award for Brotherhood of the Popcorn. You won.
Oh yeah, that was I got that right over here. I can show you. It was the Ocala Film Festival in Florida, Ocala, Florida. Who the hell knows where Ocala, Florida is? I didn't know. Anyway, this is it. If you can see it, it's glass.
Wow.
Now it lights up, and I guess I must have left it on. The batteries burned out, but it's a Ocala, Florida. If you don't know anything about Ocala, Florida, that's where they filmed all the shows that did underwater stuff, like Sea Hunt, The Creature from the Black Lagoon was filmed there. All the stuff where they, like the MGM musicals where they're doing water skiing, they filmed them there in Ocala. And they filmed an I Spy episode, which was a TV show from the 60s, where some Greek political guy was kidnapped or something. And they had some underwater stuff, and they had these statues that like Greek mythology statues, ancient statues that they put underwater. You know, they made new ones, obviously with the old ones, but they left them there all these years later, right? So the guy who designed the award for the film festival saw those and he thought, wow, those would look really cool. Why not make those the award, right? So he made these, and I went back and Brotherhood of the Popcorn, if you haven't seen it, you should look at it because it's a documentary about myself and Woody Wise and 10 other guys. We have a group of guys that watch film all the time. And we get together we haven't for 2 years because of stuff that's going on, but we get together every 2 weeks or so and we watch films and we eat all the things our wives won't let us eat and talk and we show everybody our newest toys and everything. It's just a group of guys that love film. Anyway, they ran it that way. So I had 50 years. I had a friend down there who set up the film festival in Florida, and he found out that I had 50 years in film and animation. So they decided to give me a 50-year achievement award. Now, unbeknownst to me, Woody, my friend who I went down there with, knew all about it, and Woody presented it to me at the night of the film festival. I had no idea I was going to get it. I thought it was cool because I saw this in one of the rooms where they were having the shows and stuff. But man, that is the coolest award. I'd love to get that. And I couldn't believe it. So, I remember seeing the mayor there and everything. The mayor was a great guy. And I told him, God, I can't remember what I said. Shoot. I said, oh, he was retired. The mayor was retired. I said, Mayor, I want you to run again, and I'm going to vote 6 times for you. He says, no, I can't retire. I'm on parole, right? And, oh, God, it's hysterical. It was just funny. But anyway, this is one of the nice things I never knew about that I picked up over the years. It was really cool. If you guys want to see any artwork, just let me know. I got plenty of artwork here.
I'm just going to ask you the rest of this question and then
Yeah,
you can show us some artwork if you want.
Yeah.
So you also got an Emmy for Samurai Jack and an Emmy for Super DuckTales.
Yes.
Were you there to accept those awards?
No, that's a funny thing.
No.
It's a sad story. I think I've been nominated more than 13 times, but I have never won them. And I said to my friend Robert, who's my best friend, who was nominated. My friend Robert, well, I'll tell you after this story. So we were both nominated on the same show, Samurai Jack. And I told Robert, I said, I'm not going to go. I don't want to run a tuxedo. I don't want to run a limousine. And we never bring the hardware home anyway. And naturally, that's the time we won. So Robert was there. But I wasn't there. And I could have had a picture taken with my best friend holding him, and he holding him. It would mean a lot to me. It really would, because Robert came out here from New York in the mid-50s and came to St. Charles Grade School where I was going to school. He was put in my class. And I met him right away. Well, I had some cells in my desk, and he says, where'd you get those? Well, I told him. And from that day on, 60 years later, we're still best friends. We went to art school together. We went to high school together. We worked in the industry together. We worked on shows together. We've known each other. We see each other every Friday when the cartoonists get together for a Zoom meeting. And it breaks my heart that I didn't go that time, because I wouldn't do anything to be able to do that. But anyway, Robert likes to tell people, Robert says, Tim's the reason I'm in this problem. And I go, Robert, you're in this problem? What is your problem? Let's see, you make a high 6 figures every year. You have 7 Emmys on your desk at home. You've been working day in and day out for years and years. What is exactly your problem? I'm trying to figure this out. I can't figure it out, man. I can figure mine out. I've got 1 Emmy. You've got 7. But anyway, and we laugh about it and carry on. He's a great guy. And he's my best friend. And I love him to death. So, so I didn't go, and I'm disappointed that one time I did go, they had baked Alaskan, which I had never had before. I didn't even know they made it anymore. I didn't even know what it was. But yeah, it was a great thing. Again, the food was great, everything was great. But yeah, I just didn't want to go through the expense of getting a limo. I mean, I could afford it, but there's just so much garbage. I didn't want to do it. So anyway, next.
Yeah, if you want to show us some artwork and then we can move on to Wendy's.
Well,
section.
I'll show you guys this because this is the only Scooby-Doo stuff I have. And I looked for it and I looked for it. I couldn't find it. I went through boxes of stuff, getting stuff out there. I have it right here to show you guys. And I found it just like about an hour before we came on the air. So I'll show you the first one. Now, can you see that?
Yes.
That's a rough
Oh my
drawing by the great Irv Spence. Irv Spence was a genius. Irv Spence was a master animator on the great Tom and Jerry's from the 1940s. You know, the great ones that Bill and Joe did. And this is a scene of these are rough drawings of Scooby. And I believe what he's doing, there's only 4 of them, but I believe what he's doing is he's either climbing up a chimney or down the chimney. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
But the nice thing about these are his original rough drawings. So these would go to an assistant. The assistant would clean them up on a new sheet of paper, and he would do the in-between. There's 4 extremes here. There's probably about 8 in-betweens that would have to be made. And the assistant would do those. But I have had the 13 Ghosts from Scooby-Doo. I had cells and drawings from that. But Scooby I never cared that much about Scooby. The only reason I have these drawings are because Irv Spence drew them. And I worked for Irv Spence at one time. He was a great animator. Great animator. Let's see. Here's the scene of I'm going to try to flip this for you, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This is a scene from Fruity Pebbles, the Flintstones.
Yeah.
This was animated by a guy named Ed Love, who's another great animator. And they're doing a Jane Fonda workout, you know, stretching their arms above their heads and stuff. It's kind of hard to see it. See, you bend down. This is probably from about 1975. There's Barney over there.
That's amazing.
That's really cool. Anyway, let me get, these are some of mine. This is a painting. This is a painting I did one night when I was extremely grateful that I could do anything. This is me. There's Fred and Huck Hound, and that's me in the middle as a kid. And the caption says, 2 old friends who have been with me most of my life.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
Walking toward the power greater than self.
It's wonderful.
That's awesome.
It's kind of fun. Now this was my favorite. This one is my favorite in the character. Mr. Jinx, the beatnik cat.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful.
Thank
I
you.
like that he's painting. That's really good.
Yes.
The what?
I like that he's painting. That's pretty
Oh,
cool.
yeah. I'm trying to find something. I mean, I can show you this stuff on later on.
This isn't a formal question, and Nick, if you don't ask, I just want to ask a little question. Do you have anything from Johnny Quest? I mean, I love Scooby-Doo with my whole heart, but Johnny Quest is like my second favorite cartoon.
No, I don't. I wish I did. I had vehicles, I had cells, I had Alex Toth model sheet drawings, I had all that stuff. Tons of, but I just, you know, I didn't care about it. I've had so much good stuff. I should be a multimillionaire. I should be. All the stuff I've had, but you know what? I don't look at it that way. I look at it like I had it, I got it for free. I got into business because of that. This is a pretty fun one. One of my favorite film stars is W.C. Fields. Do you know who W.C. Fields was?
Mhm.
And I loved
Yes,
Fred
yes.
Flintstone, so I did Fields and Flintstone. And that tree back there is the tree of wisdom. which is a tree behind Warner Brothers up in the Hollywood Hills. People go up there, they sign a book up there that says they've been to the tree and everything. I've never been to the tree, but I painted 300 pictures of it. And that's fields and thread. I can show you more about it. I'm going to show you some of the handbook stuff. That's what you want to see.
We want to see whatever you want to show us. We're not picky.
That's the first Fred Flintstone model sheet.
Wow.
Wow.
The original drawing.
That is cool.
It's drawn by Ed Benedict.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
And this is the first Flintstone storyboard. The Flintstone Flyer. Drawn by Dan Gordon. Very famous comic book artist and storyboard artist.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
That is
Yeah.
so cool.
Here's Fred chasing Bonnie with the golf club.
Wow.
And then
Incredible.
somewhere, let me see if I can find the page where they go bowling. Here it is. Here's the first time Fred bowls. And he does that thing, he goes up on his tiptoes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right?
Such a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the whole board. And here's some more. Here's the ending scene where they end and they fade out on the Flintstone Flyer. I think it's right there. The Flintstone Flyer. They're up in the air, and Betty and Wilma are waiting for them to come down. Of course, they're scared to death to come down because they know that they're going to be in big trouble. So that's the last. Okay, here's some model bridges.
That's cool.
Flintstone.
Wow.
Because everybody loves them in the car.
Oh, the car is great. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, the car is good.
Wow.
And then here's Fred and Barney playing golf. Fred's asleep and Barney's trying to hit the ball. These are done by an animator layout artist named Walt Clinton.
Wonderful.
And here's Fred's. Betty and Wilma enter a baking contest, and they get the mumps or the measles or something. And Fred and Barney, put on disguises because they want to get the
Oh my goodness.
prize and everything. So it's Fred and
That's
Dragon.
amazing.
Fred and Dragon, Wilma and Dragon. Oh, Barney and Dragon. There's Fred, and he looks great.
Oh my goodness.
Probably a few more here. Oh, and of course, this one, the end scene of Fred in the paddy wagon.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I have a lot of these. These are the bumpers between the cartoons on Huck and Yogi.
Right.
Where like Huck will see Yogi and Yogi say, "Hey Huckleberry, why don't you join me for my new cartoon?" And they go over to the TV set and they'll turn the TV set up. They call those bumpers. And these are the original storyboards for a lot of those bumpers.
Wow.
That's
No,
awesome.
they're very cool.
The bumpers were really cool.
Oh yeah. There's Yogi swimming, skin diving, I think. That skin diamond with another fish. I got some down here that are just beautiful. There was a director, or an artist at Hanna-Barbera named Gene Hazelton. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a great artist. Here's something. Here, this is really cool. These are Joe Barbera's original thumbnail sketches of a Huck and Yogi, I think. The Huck and Yogi bumper. Original sketches. I don't know if you can see them very well.
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Those are Joe Barbera's original drawings. He would thumbnail all this stuff out first, and then the storyboard artist would take the drawings, and the storyboard artist would do the major storyboard.
Are incredible.
This is some old mine. This is kind of fun. This is the first page I did for the Flintstone watercolors I had. It's Fred and Barney on TV,
Really?
right?
Yeah. Wow.
I kept it really wacky looking.
Oh, it's awesome.
Fred.
Oh, that's incredible.
These are all left-handed.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's talent right there.
I was lucky. I was blessed. I wasn't going to lie down. I was going to do it. No matter who's one. Fred, the puppet master.
That's very cool. Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of them here. I can't go to every one of them if I get beat up.
I love Dino. Dino's
Yes.
the best.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I love what I did. That's the main thing. You gotta love what you do. If you're stuck doing something you don't like doing it, that's the worst. That's the absolute worst. And I was blessed, boy. I loved what I did every second of it. Here's Fred offering Barney. Cactus cocktail. Remember Cactus Cooler that they had?
Yes.
Soda. This is a cactus cocktail.
That's perfect.
Oh, I love it.
Well, I figure I've never had to work for a living. I never had a real job my whole life. And how lucky is that?
Really cool. I mean, what you did was a real job. I mean, you guys entertained us for still. Your work still entertains us. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. Here's my homage to the bowling.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That is
That's
cool.
great. That's great.
Wow.
That's good. Yeah.
And then I always loved the water buffaloes
Mhm.
lodge. So
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I'm actually enjoying seeing these again. I haven't looked at them in probably a couple of years. I've got one more down here I'm going to show you, and I'll move on to something else. Cartoon cocktailers.
That's great.
Little blitz there. Oh yeah, there's a lot of drinking going on in the I got some funny stories about that. I'll tell you in just a second. And this is one of them. This one I really like.
Oh,
Fred
nice.
with his mask
That one's really great too.
loyal over the Buffalo,
Yes.
having a bowling tournament.
Wow.
Yeah. That's like, that sums him up perfectly right there in that picture.
Mhm.
So when I worked at Hanna-Barbera when I was an animator, I sat next to a guy named Bolus Jones. Oh, here, I gotta show you this one. This one says, I guess there will never be another role like Flintstone again. Hey, Barney? It's like Fred at the bar. He can't get employment because of the typed cast, right? There's Huck and Wilma and Yogi in the background.
Yeah.
And he's singing the blues.
Yeah.
In typecast. So I sat next to the standing Bolus Jones in the cubicle. The animators are like cubicles then. And all morning long, there's all these old timers that worked at Hanna-Barbera. And all morning long, they would come to Bolus's desk and they would say to Bolus would say to them, "You got your lunch?" "Oh yeah, Bolus, I got my lunch." Okay. See you at 12:30 out in the parking lot. Okay. About 10 or 12 of these guys, religiously, every day, come by and say, "Hi, Bolus, I got my lunch." "Okay, see you." At 12:30, they would run down to the car. They'd get in their cars. They'd take 2 or 3 cars. They'd jam out of the parking lot and they'd go in a 4-wheel slide in front of the Oak Crest Market across the street. One guy would go in and get a quart of vodka. 2 of them would go in and each get one, but whoever got to the line first would go and they'd leave one. They'd go to one of their houses. They'd sit up by the pool and they'd have 3 martinis, a tuna sandwich, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a bag of chips, whatever. They did it religiously. I sat next to them and I watched this every day for years and years. And they'd come back, they'd finish and they'd come back and they'd be at their desk working at 1:30 every day. And I said, man, I can get behind this. This has got my name all over it. So I saw these guys doing this and I said, yeah, I can do that. But boy, my friends and I, we would go up the street to the casting office and we'd start drinking at 10:30 in the morning, at 10:30 break. They'd call us at 5 o'clock game. "Are you guys coming back or should we turn your lights off?" Just turn the lights off. But we were always, one of my friends and I were always in bonus footage. And what that was if you're animating and you do 100 feet of animation a week for your salary, if you did anything over 100 feet, let's say you did 110, they'd pay you $3 a foot for every foot over 100 feet. So we always had 120, 150, 130. We always were over. So they didn't care. They didn't care if they never saw you. As long as you gave them the footage, they were happy. So they never said anything to us. And God, we'd be bombed up there. Oh God. I'm amazed that nothing ever happened. Thank God. But God, it was a blast. It was a blast. Let me find one thing. Okay, here's the opening titles to Yogi Bear.
Wow. Yeah.
That's the original storyboard. The opening titles of Yogi Bear, drawn by Dan Gordon. Yogi Bear is smarter than the average bear. He is on a Jeep and he drives into the tree. Drives out. Brought to you by Kellogg's.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Let's see what else is here. And then here's the end credits. This is a bridge that Gene Hayden wrote. These are the most beautiful drawn boards I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
This guy could draw like no tomorrow. Gorgeous, absolutely. The pencil line is thick and thin. There's no nothing in the wrong place. Every line is in the right place.
Is that Quick Draw McGraw?
Yeah, Quick Draw McGraw and
Oh,
Sniffer
that's
and
cool.
Blabber are the cat and mouse.
Oh, that's so cool.
There's Quick Draw here, there's Quick Draw. And and the doggy, and then here's another one. Here we're looking for the Babaloo, there's Babaloo.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they're amazing.
It's
A lot of
it's
detail
like
just in the storyboard.
Hmm.
so good. There's a Mr. Chase.
You truly have some treasures in your collection.
Huh?
I said you truly have some treasures in your
Oh
collection.
yeah. This is another one drawn by Gideon, all in blue. And here's another one of Joe's thumbnails. You can see them. Okay.
So cool.
Yeah, those are all his thumbnails. You got another question I can answer while I'm doing this?
Wendy, if you want to ask your questions, go for it.
Sure. Yeah, if you're good at multitasking, that's fun. So you have definitely worked on a lot of shows, and I want to do this for the people that are watching because, like Nikki said, going through your list of credits, I mean, what didn't you work on that like we grew up with and we loved? So I want to read off for everybody that's too lazy to go and look. I want to read some of the ones that I marked down that are like my personal favorites. Like obviously I love Scooby, but that's not the only cartoon that I love. When I saw that you worked on Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, I got very excited because I love that series.
I was a director for the first year and a producer for the following 4 years or 5 years to the end of the show. And it was my idea to when I took over that show to produce it, we couldn't do anything with the characters because the characters are written in stone. Granny is Granny, Tweety's Tweety, Hector's Hector, Sylvester's Sylvester. But I said to the directors, I said, if you see some artwork you really like and you want to design the backgrounds like that you've seen, let's change the backgrounds in every episode. Let's do a new look, fresh look every episode. And so these guys, and if you're excited about something you saw and you want to do it that way, you've sold me right then. You've sold me. I'm sold. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to say, yeah, do it, and have a good time, experiment, do a good job. And that show did really great. And everybody in that studio in Warner Brothers wanted to work for me because I knew how to produce a show. You know how you produce a show? You do this. And you let the guys who are artists doing what they do and make you look like a genius. No brainer. Yeah. No brainer.
Yeah, that was honestly one of, because that was a show that I watched when I got a little bit older from when I was watching mostly Hanna-Barbera. And it was just, I don't know, the stories were very, very clever. And it was fun to watch along and try to figure things out. And it was just beautifully, like the backgrounds were amazing and the animation was terrific. It just such a wonderful series, definitely in like my top 10 cartoon series of all time. It was incredible.
That's great. I'm sorry, my back is too low. Okay. I'll tell you another show that I really liked was Batman, the animated series. Yes. I worked on almost every one of those. I'll tell you a story about that. I was working at Disney's on their exclusive contract. 1.5 years left on an exclusive contract. And that means that you work, during the day for Disney. If there's freelance work to be done, Disney has the first right of refusal, meaning I'm going to do freelance this week. Do you have any freelance? I have to tell Disney first. And if they said no, then I could pick up from someone else, but I had to give them the first right. Well, I'm sitting at work one day, and one of my friends who just quit Disney's and went to Warner Brothers and just opened, and she calls me up, and I knew her back at Hanna-Barbera. And she calls me up and she says, look at Tim, we haven't had lunch in a long time. Let's have lunch. Come on out to the Valley Inn. I'll buy you lunch and you can see what we're working on. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Sounds great. So I go out there to lunch with her. And this is back when I was still imbibing, right? So she pours 3 martinis down me as fast as she can. And she takes me over to the studio and she says, now look at this stuff. And I go in this room and there's this room full of Batman Beyond presentation art. And it's like all like Bruce Timm and Eric Adamski. These guys are the greats of the greats, man. These guys are, I can't draw that stuff. I don't even try. But these guys are the greats of the greats. So I'm looking at all this stuff and everything. And she says to me, how soon can you slug a board? Well, slugging a board is just a technical term for adding footage in. When a character is saying a line of dialogue and you have 2 characters doing dialogue back and forth, you know how long those scenes are going to be because those lines of dialogue are so long. You can measure out how long they are. You can see how long the scenes are going to be. But when you have action scenes, let's say you're going to do a fight, a car chase, or whatever, we have to figure out how much footage each one of those scenes is going to be. How long is it going to take for it to read? If you're setting up a fight, you set up the confrontation between the 2 people. You move slow through that. You're setting up. Once the first punch is thrown, then you go like a bat out of hell. You cut quick cuts, everything fast, and then you show what happened at the end. And you give more time for that. So that slugging a board is a step that you do before you do the exposure sheets. So I'm half in the bag when she says to me, "How can we start slugging a board?" And I go, "Well, I guess now I'm half in the bag." And forgetting I'm under contract with Disney, right? That phone call, 27 years later, I'm still up. That phone call got me a ton of pension hours, a ton of work. It was one of the luckiest things that ever happened to me. But I always thought Batman Beyond, Batman the Animated Adventure, the first Batman series, was great because they watched those old Max Fleischer Supermans, and they were influenced by those. They were influenced by Johnny Quest. All that they stole from all that stuff, and that's how they got what they got. So
Yeah, that's a great series too. It really is.
Yeah, it is. So here's one of my jazz positions.
Oh, that's cute. Oh my goodness. It's such a great style. It's very, very unique. I mean, no one is going to not know that you did these. They're beautiful.
Everybody loves this stuff. I don't know what the deal is. I get more compliments from people on Facebook and anything else. They love it. I'm working on a coffee table book right at the moment.
Nice.
Oh, that'll be incredible.
Well, I want to do one for people with Parkinson's disease or with any disease. And it's about hope and inspiration, the book. That's all it is. And I think I've got Parkinson's artwork that I can show you guys. It's very dark. And I've been in dark places at night when I'm getting into my head. But luckily I know how to get out of it. And I've got some that are real funny. So I just want to share it with people. And neurologists all over the world would want it in their waiting room, I would think, to help people out. So if you guys know a good book agent, I need a book agent. There's some crows that I did here.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, those are wonderful. Look at that. Oh.
I love that.
Yeah, I've been, in like 1999, it was Christmas. I was just starting to get sober. And I walked into a Borders bookstore. I hadn't drawn anything in 12 years because I was doing so much directing. I was writing so much in directing. I hadn't done anything in 12 years. And they had all these sketchbooks on the shelf. They were blowing them out for $1 a piece or something. And I stopped dead in my tracks. I thought, what is wrong with you, you idiot? Why are you in animation? Because you love to draw your whole life. Now you haven't done anything worth a damn in 12 years. So I bought a bunch of sketchbooks. I went to this AA meeting every morning and I drew in these sketchbooks. I drew all these cartoon characters and stuff. And I fell back in love with what I loved as a kid.
Great.
Another one.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah,
Really
that's
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put musicians in the book, and drunks in the book, and cartoon characters, and abstracts, and I hope something will happen with it. And, this is kind of fun. This is my Samurai Jack model.
That's cool.
It's
Yeah,
called
that's
Half
really
Dragon
neat.
Boy. But it took, I think it took me to get this disease for me to get all this artwork out. This
Right.
artwork has been sitting in there for all these years, and I just wasn't doing anything with it. I guess it took the disease to get it out, and that's what it did. So,
You ever illustrated a children's book?
no, I never have. People have asked me about it. I haven't done it.
I think your
I'd like
art
to
style
do
would be
it.
really good in a kid's book.
Mhm.
As a skateboarder.
Yeah, that's very cool. So yeah, you have done a lot of jobs within the animation world that have not been animation. So I feel like, and I can speak for myself with this too, I watch a lot of animation, but I don't really understand a lot of the process behind how
Right,
certain
right.
things are done. So
Okay.
you have been credited with things like sheet timer, animation timing director, timing supervisor. Could you explain to us what these timing jobs, what does that mean? What is it that you're actually doing?
Okay, I'll show you. This is an exposure sheet. Now, it's very much like a ledger sheet. Every frame on here represents one frame of film. So there's 16 frames in a foot, and 24 frames in a second, 1 second. So when you direct the animation out, you direct it on this side here, and it says, what is this? It says Fred and Barney exercise things, and they gesture up and down, up and down, up and down. You put all the direction on this side of the paper, and then the animators use this side for the numbered drawings and everything. They know where they are and everything. And here's the dialogue. The dialogue is the dialogue is he's saying, he's saying 6, 7. They break it down so you know exactly what frame the eye is on for 6, the 7, and the 8. And then these are they're going like this. They're doing this. They're going down like this and up like this, stretching like this. It's a Jane Fonda workout tape is what it was. Cocoa Pebbles commercial. Anyway, when I would do exposure sheet directing, I would take this exposure sheet, I'd take a storyboard, and I would have every scene on the storyboard on the exposure sheets based on the footage I put in between the scenes that had no dialogue in it. So then I'd get a stack of exposure sheets, and I'd have to direct out every scene, meaning Barney runs in, step, step, step. Let's say he steps every 6 frames. So I would indicate every step. Then he stops, he skids to a stop in 8 frames, anticipates in 4 frames, reaches quickly in 2 frames, it grabs in 2 frames, and then swings up in 1 frame, and cushions in 10 frames. I have to break down every action. Every time you see a character move, that action has to be broken down. So because a half-hour show like Batman and Sylvester Two Mysteries, whatever, is 2,200 feet long. And then you put in your end credits and beginning credits and commercials, and that gives you your half hour. So you have to time out every scene, and then when you're done timing that scene out, you have to send it to editing to find out exactly how long the show is. So they might come back and might say the show is 1,900 feet long. It's 300 feet short. wow. So you have to pad some, or you have to add some new scenes, because you can't pad everything. If you pad everything, then it starts to slow it way down and it just kind of lumbles along. It doesn't work. So, and sometimes we might come back and you say it's 2,400 feet long. Then you got to cut 200 feet. So you got to get with the director and the producer and sit down and cut this stuff. So it's basically a ledger sheet that the animator works on, the director works on, and it keeps track of every scene. Every scene has a cut line and where it starts and where it stops. You can find every scene in the picture based on the footage down at the bottom of the exposure sheet. Gives you a running calculus of, like, this is at 20 feet. Then the next page is at 224 feet. Next page is 28 feet. And you can find out exactly where you are doing all that. This is just kind of a real loose layman's explanation of it. But an exposure sheet is very important because you got to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, well, you can see where this can get screwed up real quick. And there's been people, the industry got to a point where there were so many people in it, there was so much work, anybody could hold a pencil could get a job. But some people got into it and didn't know what they were doing. It was a big headache for a lot of people. So anyway, I hope that helps you understand a little bit.
Yes, very much. Yes.
The slugging process is literally just slugging in. When you have action scenes, you have to say, if it's a car chase, you have a long down shot of cars racing through the city. Well, maybe that's 10, 12 feet long, because you have to be able to see those cars and build that up. Now you cut in close on two of them, and one car zips out real fast, the other car comes up quick, that could be 3 feet. And then it's just like fast turns and stuff. Car turns through scene 8 frames, things like that, really fast. But you have to know how to do that stuff. And most of the guys who directed the exposure sheets were animators before that. The new animation, knew about that stuff. I was trained by a guy named Ray Patterson, who was a great Disney animator. He animated the elephants and the ostriches and the hippos in Fantasia. He did Dumbo, and he was a Tom and Jerry animator with Herb Spence in the 40s, a great Tom and Jerry animator. And he taught all of us. At a certain point at Hanna-Barbera, all the animation was needed to be sent overseas. And you had to either become a storyboard guy or a timing director, because everything else was going overseas. And I looked at storyboards. I just didn't think I was that good of an artist. And you had to be fast to do that stuff. So I said, I'm going to learn how to do directing, timing directing. And Ray Patterson told a friend of mine many years later that I was the best and most promising guy to be able to train. And I was thrilled to hear that from Ray, because Ray was a great guy, great animator. Those guys back in those days, when you think of Tom and Jerry, and you think of Jerry, that little mouse, he's very small on that animation paper, but he gets blown up to like 10 sizes of a building on a big screen. And those assistant animators who drew that stuff, who put them on model, who made sure everything was right, those guys get no credit. They were really great artists. They were really great. So, yeah, anybody can animate that stuff. Let's face it, Tom and Jerry, Bugs Bunny, Porky, Daffy Elmer, those are difficult drawings. Those are not simple, easy drawings, rough drawings. Those are hard drawings to do and make them feel right and make them look right. Because if you get an evil witch, is easy to do because you can get off on something like that and it still works. When you have a pretty girl, oh man, you're just asking for trouble, because that is really tough to do. There's only been a few guys that can draw those things really good. So anyway, I hope that answers your question somewhat.
Yes, okay, very much so.
Great.
Yeah, that's incredible. To kind of go off of that, stay on the topic of the actual mechanics of how animation works.
Right.
I personally have always, even when I was a kid, it mesmerized me how incredibly well, especially with Hanna-Barbera, you could sync up an animated character's mouth movements with the dialogue that the voice actors are reading. And I've always wanted to know what is the process to get that kind of a perfect sync?
I'll tell you how they did it. They would record the show first. Okay. And then when I would go and slug the storyboard. You slug the board first, and then you send it to track, and the track readers read the track onto the X sheets. Now, there's a number. The first frame of the film is frame number 1, obvious. Number 2, number 3, goes to, it hits 2,200 feet, every frame number. So you can, let's say I call for 5.5 feet before the first line of dialogue. And at 5 feet, 9 frames, the first line, Fred says, "Hey, Barney, let's go." So the first line, hey, H-E, and it's, I write it on a little line on the exposure sheet. I draw a line down about 6 frames because the track reader reads that. He puts the track on the exposure sheet. I put it in the slug board that it starts here and it ends here. But he meticulously puts it on the exposure sheet where it is, where it actually physically is. So you know where it is. Okay. When it's on the exposure sheet, the animator knows. And Barney says, "Hey, Fred." So he says, "Hey, Fred," really fast. So he knows that the HE is right at frame number 5 feet, 9 frames, and the HE goes to 5 feet, 13 frames, and then it stops. And then the Fred comes in 2 frames after that. He knows, so he breaks it down literally, so it's like that. Now, when you do dialogue, M, mother, B, pizza, F, Fred, you get an R and put an arm out there. Fred. So as long as on the M's, the B's, and the P's, you keep that. You have to shut that mouth. You have to shut it. And then on the vowels, if they're yelling, you exaggerate. "Hey, Fred!" You exaggerate as much as you can. So there are standard mouths that we all use. We use an A mouth is a closed mouth. A D mouth is a wide open mouth. The C is an in-between, right in between the A and the D. And the B mouth is an in-between between the A and the C. And then there's an E mouth in between the D and an F mouth for the ooh, like water, Fred. And that's how they do that stuff. And you always try to hit the mouth on the frame or the frame before, never after. Try that. Sometimes you have to do that. You try not to do it ever after. You try to do it right on the frame for a frame before it. And it's amazing. As long as it's doing this, it looks like he's talking.
Yeah.
As long as you have him opening and closing, it looks like he's talking. But that's a big trade secret. Don't give that away to anybody unless you get lots of money.
Yeah,
And
that's
some people-
amazing. That's
And some
amazing.
people don't know how to do dialogue, and they get some really wacky looking stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we don't, and I mean, everybody that has not actually done the work, I don't think that we have any idea of the level of appreciation that we should have for the work that goes into making, we sit down and for 22 minutes or whatever, we watch a Scooby cartoon or whatever it is. And like, it's wonderful, but how many of us are thinking about, there isn't even a word to describe the amount of work that so many people are doing to make that one 20-minute period of time. And it's so perfect. And I mean, I don't even know what to say. That's that amazing. I don't know what to say.
I'm amazed that we send so much stuff goes overseas nowadays, and it has for years. I'm amazed that stuff comes back on finished film. But I realized, I grew up with a bunch of young guys here that got into cartoons and animation and love it and did it for years. And I'm convinced that there are people over in Korea, Taiwan, Japan, China that grew up watching the same stuff, and they learned to love it, and they want to be in it too. And it shows. Their work shows. And they get sometimes you get great stuff. You get mediocre stuff, and you get lousy stuff. That's just the nature of the beast. It's always going to be that way. And I've been over there a couple of times and seen those people over there, and they're a lot of them are great artists, terrific, nice people, really nice. They like us. They want to do cartoons their whole life, and they made it happen.
Yeah. When you were working specifically as an animator, I guess maybe you answered. Well, maybe you didn't. As an animator, what was the most difficult part of that job, either technical or just anything? Because I feel like the whole idea of it seems very, very, very difficult.
Well,
But there one part that was just like the most difficult.
Yeah, the most difficult is looking at that white sheet of paper at the start of every scene, and you go, "What do I do here?" And you think, "How am I going to do this?" But you know, somehow it's like getting the pencil from up here to down here. How do I do that? How do I get down there? But I always found out once I got down there, I just went. I just went, and it worked.
Yeah.
And it worked. But there's nothing more intimidating than that blank sheet of paper. Some stuff was really hard, but you know what? I always realized, no matter what, you got to do something. You have to do something. So if you do something and you're wrong, you can go to somebody and say, "Look, I'm having trouble with this. Can you give me a hand?" Most of the old timers, the great, like Herb Spence, Ray Patterson, those guys, they would always help you out. They would always say, "Well, do this, do that." They'd always help you. They were the nicest guys. And the guys who were hacks, who were just grinding it out to make a fast buck, and give it to them, they were usually not so nice guys. I don't know. But most of the time, you need to get some guys to help you out, and they'd say, "Look, just do this," and you do it, and it worked out. And usually always did, just saying, like I said, there's nothing more intimidating than that blank sheet. You guys are artists, some of you are artists. And there's nothing more intimidating than that blank sheet of paper.
True.
And once you finally get going, it works out. But I never knew I was going to get all this stuff done. I never in a million years thought I'd be doing these watercolors. So I guess when one door shuts, another door opens.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah. Amen to that.
yeah, that's it.
So when I was looking at your credits, it looked like your first Scooby credit specifically was for Laugh Olympics in 1978. By that time,
Oh yeah,
Scooby had been
because
around.
yeah, that's probably right, because I was at Ralph Bash's from 71, I think, till 75. In 76, I was at Sanrio doing Metamorphosis, doing the change. There was a feature, and The Mouse and His Child, I'm familiar with another feature. And then 78, I went to Hanna-Barbera, and 76, I went to Patty Freely to work on Mr. Magoo, they did, and Pink Panther, and some other stuff. And yeah, that's probably right. You're probably right. That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ask me about
So-
the shark for a damn thing about it.
Well, maybe you won't be able to answer this then. So Scooby had been around for about 10 years, and you have already said that Scooby wasn't necessarily like your favorite cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember, just in a general sense, what the public's opinion of Scooby was at that time?
I was assuming that the public loved it because they were always doing them, and the kids loved Scooby, and most of the animators hated it because he was so hard to draw, because he's not designed well for animation. Designed well for animation of circles and ovals and things like that, things that you can squash and stretch. That's what makes animation, squash and stretch. When you start moving Scooby around with those pointed elbows and all that stuff, he starts. That's why a lot of the scenes in the Scoobies look exactly like the model sheet drawings, because the animator would take the model sheet, blow it up or reduce it down, and trace it, and use those for the extremes, because there was such a hassle. There was a great story about Kenny Muse, Old Man Muse, we called him. Kenny Muse was an old Disney animator, and H&B, again, with Tom and Jerry, with Herb Spence and Ray Patterson, and he did Mickey Mouse at Disney's, and he was a great animator, great in the early days. He had a lot of physical illnesses and stuff, but he loved animation. And he used to walk down the hall, "I got to have more footage, Bill. Give me more footage, Bill. I got to have more footage, Bill." All the time he'd scream that out. But Kenny Muse was the guy who came up with limited animation that they used for Yogi Bear and Town and Rough and Ready and that stuff. He established the walk cycles, you walk that you can repeat over and over again, and the dialogue, the head up, head down, things that accent the dialogue. He established all that stuff, and I think they kept him on because of that. When he was really not, he always had a great assistant working for him, because Kenny couldn't draw anymore. But what was I getting at? I was getting at something. Oh, I was at Kenny's desk one day, and he was going to start animating a scene on Scooby, and it had Fred and Wilma, and Fred and Velma, and Daphne and Shaggy and Scooby all walk in, right? They come to a stop, like simply in the scene. And Kenny looks at me, and Kenny just takes a pink pearl. Says, "Where's that pink pearl? Give me that pink pearl, Rick." Bullshit, they walk in. They're already there, damn it. He just erased it right off the explosion. There was nothing. Oh man, I don't know if he got in trouble for that, but he just said, "No, screw it, they're already there." So what I wanted to do, I always wanted to do. I joked about this with some friends of mine at the studio a few times. I always wanted to do an episode. Well, I got very upset when they removed Fred's ascot. I threatened to quit the show when they took Freddie's ascot. I know that was terrible, but that's another story for another day. What was I talking about? I was talking about the Scooby episode. I always wanted to open up on Scooby and Shaggy, and they're looking at the clues and everything like. And Shaggy looks at Scooby, and Shaggy says, "You know, Scooby, I'm sick of this bullshit. I don't want to do this. We know that the hotel manager did it. Let's just go down to the restaurant and get the hell out of here." You know, it's like, let's just end this thing right now and forget it. Of course, I couldn't get anybody interested in wanting to do that. They wanted to keep it going. But most of the guys that worked on it, I mean, there were probably some guys that loved it and thought more of it than the other animators. But most of them, you know, it was a job. They were happy to be working. Most of them were good artists and good animators and stuff, but it was nothing that really, you know, it was nothing. I mean, let's face it, some of those guys had done classic Tom and Jerry's and Disney Fantasia and Snow White and shit, and Bugs and Porky and Daffy. They'd already worked on great stuff. They're never going to see that kind of great stuff again. So, but they appreciated the work, and they were grateful to be working. And I was glad they were there because, man, they had stories to tell. I like to listen to them. I mean, they worked with great animators like Fred Moore and Norm Ferguson, and those guys were the greats of the great. I mean, have you guys ever heard of a guy named Fred Moore?
Yes.
At Disney's, he's the greatest. I believe he's the greatest animator ever lived. Him and Bill Clyver and Norm Ferguson. Those guys, man, that guy was 18 years old when he walked into the Disney studios and he turned the studio on its head. And he did the Three Little Pigs when he's 20 years old, and he's a naive artist. Does the Three Little Pigs. Then he does the Seven Dwarfs. What's better than the Seven Dwarfs? It was 22, and he animates that stuff.
Amazing.
Nothing's better than that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So then in 1983,
Yes.
you work on the new Scooby-Doo and Scrappy show.
Okay.
So
If
I know
you
I can
say
speak
so.
at least I can speak for myself and Cameron that we love Scrappy. Certain people on this panel right now do not share our great love, Nikki.
Oh, you mean I've got to tiptoe through this answer then?
But we had a whole panel where we talked about Scrappy, so it's a hot topic. Even now, Scrappy is a hot topic for some reason. So
our panel got a little heated too because half of us liked him and half of us didn't. So
now, do you guys know who came up with Scrappy? Do you know who that story?
I don't think so. No.
No, I would love to hear it.
Either. I don't know it either. But I'm going to assume. I'm going to make an assumption.
I was getting so excited.
Yeah.
I'm going to make an assumption here. Cameron, you might like this, Cameron, you might not. I don't know. But, you know, Joe Barbera used to like to put a dog in everything they did. Everything. There was always a dog. And I got a feeling that he came up with Scrappy at some point and introduced Scrappy. And then, of course, maybe Ewo designed them, and maybe Jerry Eisenberg or Willie Ito, two of the other guys, designers, designed it. But I got a feeling Joe, if I had to bet on it, I would bet Joe came up with Scrappy and put this Scrappy-Doo sounds good, let's put him in.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, Joe worked with all the writers. Joe sold the shows in New York. When we brought him back to the physical studio, Mr. Hanna got the shows done. He was the guy to get them done. The nuts and bolts guy, get it done. And hit those air dates because you cannot miss an air date. But I would say if I was to make a guess, I would guess that Mr. Barbera came up with Scooby-Doo and Scrappy.
Yeah. Do you have any recollection at that time if either from the people working on the show or just the general public, just like a general thing, was there like a level of hate for Scrappy that you were aware of when you were working on that show? No way.
No.
Good.
No, I never heard anything like that, because all we cared about is hearing that the show's doing good, we're gonna do another season, and then we'll be working again the following year. So that's what we wanted to hear. I would never hear stuff like that. I need to hear the show's tanking or the show's doing good. And once in a while I'd see a family and some kid might write in and do a drawing of some character or something, but I'm sure I saw a couple of Scoobies in somewhere in that time frame. Maybe even Scrappy, I don't know. But I can imagine the kids would like Scrappy. I would think they would. The little kids,
Well,
especially.
I did.
Yeah.
I loved him. I thought he was great.
Well, I was a little kid and I didn't like him. God, you guys,
Traitor.
it must be a late night already back there. You guys, let's go on the pickup here. Just kidding. Hey, here's something did I show you? I showed Nikki this. I didn't show you guys this, did I? You see this character?
Oh.
This is Captain Caveman before there was a Captain Caveman.
Oh,
wow.
that's way.
This is a pencil holder that was made by a company called Buddy Flex. Rod Faith was the guy who designed them, and it was in a little industrial section over by a friend of mine's house. They went out of business. I mean, he just left everything in the building, and he left all these pencil holders. I had hundreds of them at one time. I just have this one now, but they were great. I mean, this is a great design for Captain Caveman. I worked on Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. I know that. I suffered through that one, but this is kind of a neat little idea.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, I wish I could travel back in time.
Oh man, don't we all?
We'd be rummaging through the dumpsters at Hanna-Barbera.
Oh man, I not only did it there, I did it at Beanie and Cecil, Bob Clampett's Beanie and Cecil cartoon show on Alvin and the Chipmunks, Calvin and the Colonel. Oh God, all kinds of them. I can't think of them now. But and then of course at Disneyland they sold the cells for $2 a piece or $1 a piece back in the 50s and 60s. And I bought a ton of them there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So did you work on Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island?
was that a HP picture or was it a Warner Brothers?
It was already Warner Brothers from
What year?
98 guys or 99? 98, I think.
98.
And it's the first time. Yeah, it's the first time where the monsters are real monsters. Like the zombies are not somebody in a mask. Like they're real monsters. There's real cat creatures. Do you remember that?
I may have. Of course, there were a lot of people.
I know it's on your IMDb list.
Yeah, I probably did then. But I hear sometimes that list isn't complete or it's wrong or something. But I worked on so much stuff; it's probably fairly right.
Well, if you're not really that sure of it, then you probably won't be able to answer my question, which was just something that we've talked about before, that at the time that came out, it was really the first new Scooby project in nearly a decade. And I was like, I don't know, 11 at the time that came out. And even I remember that like some parents were upset that it was quite a bit scarier than classic Scooby-Doo. And of course, the aspect that the monsters were real monsters. And I was just curious if you remembered at that time, was there a lot of backlash for doing that to Scooby?
No, I don't remember that at all. I do remember there was a kid back east. His mother, he stuttered a little bit. His mother complained all the time about Porky Pig stuttering, and they had to finally take Porky, stop the stuttering. And I think he stutters now, but that's the one thing I remember. I don't remember anything at all about the Scooby-Doo at all. Okay. So I probably did work on it. You can ask the other question. These you might like. Oh, this is something interesting. You remember the actor Robert Blake, who got arrested for killing his wife, or supposedly killing his wife? This is the court shot of me testifying at the trial.
Wow.
I happened to be at the restaurant the night that he supposedly killed her, and I knew the owner, and I was walking out with my wife, and the owner says, hey Tim, how are you? What's new? How was dinner? What'd you have? And I had the pasta Robert Blake because I loved it with spinach and marinara sauce and pasta. He goes, that's funny, sitting right over there. And I look over and I see him. And he looks at me and I give him a wave and a thumbs up. I was a fan. I watched Loretta and the Rascals and all that. And then I saw the next day, I see the newspaper and all hell's broken loose and he's been murdered and all that. And the guy came up to me about a month later. I was in there and he says, you better give me your phone number. They might want to talk to you because they want to talk to anybody who had any contact with him. And so they did, and they subpoenaed me. And I was on the stand for like 5 minutes. And said, do you know Robert Blake? No. Where did you sit in relationship to where you were sitting? Oh, right there. They had a map. And what was his demeanor? Well, he was just like a guy eating dinner. He didn't look overjoyed. He didn't look distraught. He just looked like he was having dinner. Now, since that time, I've gotten to know him pretty well. So these are my animal drawings. Those are the eggs. And those are the baby chicks.
They're so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Those are alligators.
Oh,
Hippopotamus.
Those are cute.
Elephants.
and are these all with your left hand?
Yeah.
Wow,
Lions.
they're
Oh,
cool.
I like those. Yeah.
Camels.
Very cool.
Rhinoceros. Elephants again.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Turtles. Which is in one of these, you've seen them all pretty much. Cows.
Oh,
Chickens.
Those are great.
They are.
I think
They're
they'd be
really
great on
good.
t-shirts and on napkins and things.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Rooster. Here's a turkey. Oh, I like the turkey. There's the cooked bird down in the corner. Then there's the duck.
Mm-hmm.
I like the colors.
Goat. Sheep.
So when you started drawing with your left hand, were you able to do anything with your left hand, like write or anything?
No, I
Before?
never tried anything. I never tried anything with my left hand. I
Wow.
can show you the first drawing I did left hand. This is the first book I self-published.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Drawings from the left. This is the first drawing I did left hand. This one right here.
Wow. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
I had no clue I could get that well. It's not that bad, all things considered.
Oh, that's
It's not
for
bad at
it
all.
being
No.
the first time that you really ever did anything with your left hand. That is amazing.
that is really good.
These are all left-handed ones. This is when I got a little slicker and I had a better ink line. And
Wow.
Incredible.
I got into this black, using the black to make it pop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're really good. I can't even do that with my right hand.
Really? Well, this is okay. This is the tree. It's on the hill.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the tree of wisdom on the hill.
Uh-huh.
Those are the planets and stars.
Beautiful.
It's kind of abstract. These are kind of fun. That's the city, and there's the tree in the background.
Oh,
Mhm.
nice.
I just try to experiment with as many things as I can. Here's this, I call this the egg coming over the horizon. Looks like it's supposed to be the sun coming over the horizon. It looks like an egg.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
I've done this tree in all kinds of different ways. Stuff. That's what this is. And these are abstracts. These are kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
I really like all the color you put into everything.
Yeah, I don't know crap about color, and everybody says I have a great color sense. My wife will tell you I'm colorblind some of the time, which I can't believe. But this is a nice one.
Oh, look at that.
That's really nice.
Beautiful.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Wow.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I
wonderful.
never know what's going to happen once I start doing the watercolors. Abstracts. Here's the first Yogi Bear cartoon. Pie-eyed pirates. And that's, if you can see it. There's
Yes.
Yogi Bear.
Oh, wow.
And
Awesome.
here's the farmer.
Mhm.
There's Boo-Boo's. Boo-Boo's in the summer. And there's Yogi. Yogi's coming up from behind the tree. These are about 20 pages long. Roughly.
Wow.
And then here's another one of Joe Barbera's roughs.
Mhm.
The first version of Yankee Doodle before it became Yankee Doodle.
That's incredible that you have those.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get them. Here's these are drawings I did for DuckTales. Like the original DuckTales stories. It was a promo for they were on a roller coaster.
Mhm.
They were riding this roller coaster. These are the drawings that I did for the boards.
So cool to see these because we all know these cartoons.
There's
Yeah.
Tailspin.
So to see the
And the
beginning of
Tailspin.
it.
Mhm.
Tailspin, there's Baloo. I
Wow.
drew these drawings. Yeah, I drew these. And there's, I can't remember what the girl's name is, but there's the girl.
Mhm.
And was Kip the young kid? Was it Kip or Kit? Yeah. He waves a flag, gentle and waves a flag.
Oh,
The winner circle. And then what's on this side? This one. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Huh.
There's DuckTales. And these are the Beagle brothers, the bad guys from DuckTales.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And they were the Beagle sisters, I think, or something. That's a page I drew.
That's incredible.
There's some muffin ready stuff here. I ask you some questions, feel free to please.
Well, did you get a chance to look at that screen grab or the video that Nikki forwarded to you?
The Joe
Joe
Barbera
Barbera?
YouTube video.
Yeah, where he was pitching an idea.
Okay,
He's
questions?
pitching some kind of a new series that we have never seen before, but he holds up, you can only see a part of it, but like an illustration for it with a character that looks very much like Vincent Van Gogh from 13 Ghosts. And he has like a little bit of, he describes it like there's trolls, there's a military school, and it's just a very short little thing. But I was curious if you recognized anything about it. I mean, I don't think it was ever produced because
No.
I've never seen it, but
I've never seen it. I've never seen it. This is a publicity thing for Huck and Yogi on the KTLA channel 11.
cool.
For they probably made it Sullivan or something. That's and then here's one for it says Aloha Huck. And they were in Hawaii. Something,
Amazing.
I don't know what it is. It said something on it. It's some kind of publicity piece.
Yeah.
And this is a layout drawing of Quick Draw flying.
It's wonderful.
And here's Huck. It's funny, Huck's going to have roast pig. He's going to barbecue. Roast pig. And then here's Quick Draw with his lasso.
Mm-hmm.
These are layouts. These are what the animators would get for the layout. And then there's Quick Draw or Huck on his when he was Knights of Old on his horse. And there's Snagglepuss before he was Snagglepuss, I think, and Quick Draw.
Wow.
Quick Draw singing with Baba Louie. Quick Draw talking to Baba Louie. I think there's some. There's El Kabong.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
And then Huckleberry.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Yogi. Too bad Yogi, you'd have to get rid of the guns today. Then Pixie and Dixie.
Mm-hmm.
And baseball.
Oh my gosh.
And Pixie and Dixie's standing there. And then there's Snoop and Blabber. Blabber got put into a washing machine, and Snooper was running and getting out, retrieving. There he is running and reaching into the machine.
Mr. Walker, when I was a kid, yeah, I don't know if you remember it, but Boomerang. I think all of us on the panel remember Boomerang. And it was a channel. Oh, that's so cool. But I begged my parents to just buy the channel because back then with Dish you could buy certain channels, and oh, that's so cool. And so when I bought Boomerang, I mean, I don't get me wrong, Scooby-Doo was on there, but all these Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear. So I mean, it's just bringing back so many nostalgic memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's Quick Draw. And Baba Louie, Snoop and Blabber, Augie Doggy, and Doggy Daddy.
So cool. So cool.
And then here's this is layouts for a bumper with Huck and Yogi sitting at the desk, sleeping. Somewhere I've got some muffin ready. Oh, these are good. These are nice. These are model sheet drawings. They were done by the great Harvey Eisenberg, who drew the Tom and Jerry cartoons. And these are original models that he drew. He drew them on kind of like tracing paper. They've yellowed over the years, but they're still in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They are, yeah.
I've got several of those. Mr. Ranger.
Wow.
Okay, that's from the opening titles of Rough and Ready, where they come coming around the corner, riding a little motor scooter.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
And then here's Killer and Diller and Ready,
Mm-hmm.
and the Chickosaurus egg. The Chickosaurus. And then it's Submarine, Killer and Diller again. Little Viking character that was in one of them. There's Quick Drop and Ripping Titles, riding the stagecoach. Brought to you by Kellogg's.
Wow.
And, here's Huckleberry doing a Hootie. Anyway, that's
Oh, they're
any more
incredible.
questions? Huh?
Well, you have a couple questions.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. But first, I just want to say it's amazing seeing your artwork, and thank you so much for taking the time to share.
My
it.
pleasure. Thanks for
Great.
asking.
And I just also wanted to let you know that I have an aunt who's an artist who's also struggled with Parkinson's for a really long time, and she went through a very,
Really? Give me
Yeah.
your address and I'll send you a book.
Well, I was going to say, as soon as that other book comes out too, I was going to make sure I buy a copy and send it to her, because she will love that. And she did a lot of painting, and she also did printmaking, but her way of dealing with it has been turning into woodblock printing, because what she found was she really soft material, and you make a lot fewer strokes, and you can kind of focus on the strokes, and then the process of printmaking and
Sure.
working on that
As
is
long as she's doing anything, that's the main thing.
yeah.
Do whatever you can. Be grateful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Acceptance can get you through a lot of this. I've had this disease, this thinking disease, for 18 years.
Yeah.
I'm in pretty good shape, all things considering. So you can beat it. You can beat it if you work out, stay positive, and do what you love to do. Don't give up your own.
Yeah. So I'm going to be sure to send her a copy of your books, and I'm looking forward to the one that said you're working on now as soon as that's out. I'm going to ask you a couple questions though. And
Okay.
I appreciate the perspective that you must have, having worked on so many things, and that idea that, Scooby-Doo, which is really important for us because we grew up with it, for you and a lot of the other animators, it's just a job. So with that in mind, I'm adjusting my question slightly. My first one is, of all the things that you did work on for Scooby-Doo, was there anything that stuck out to you as being higher quality, either a story that you're like, oh, this is good, or animation, or choices that were made over
You mean any show at all?
any Scooby-Doo show? I'm actually interested
Oh,
in
any
seeing
Scooby-Doo, no.
anything Scooby-Doo related that you're like, oh, this is
I
a
thought
good
that the 13 Ghosts, that was one that had Vincent Price in it, like the caricature of Vincent Price.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty nicely drawn. I like the caricature of Vincent Price.
Yeah.
I knew the guys that designed that stuff. They were all great artists. So that's why it looked so good. But once it got into animation, it was hard to do. You had to be careful with it to maintain the quality that those guys set, because those drawings are not easy to do. When you start moving them around, they get really hard. And if stuff starts getting in the wrong places on the face and it gets mushy and everything, it doesn't work good. So, but I think over and above that, I mean, it was a pretty good show. What I remember of it, I didn't see much of it, because I would say if I had to go look at a retake or something with Mr. Hanna, I'd see something, or I probably didn't watch it at home because I didn't know what was on.
Right.
And I was probably drunk. Oh, no.
That's great.
I think that was a pretty good show. That was a pretty good show.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting one. So follow up to that is, are there any characters or properties that you did work on that you do have a really strong attachment for? Was there anything that you were very excited that you got to work on because it was a character that you did?
Any show at all?
Yeah, any show.
Well, Samurai Jack, number 1.
Yeah.
Batman, number 2.
Batman, yeah.
In fact, those are so close together. Both of them, it could be one and 2 are going to be so close. One day one's going to be one, and one day the other's going to be one. So those 2 shows I thought were really great shows. I like Sylvester and Tweety a lot. I love Flintstone. And I didn't work on the first version of him because I was a kid then watching it. But I probably worked on Bedrock Cops, the worked on Pebbles and Bam Bam when they were adults or teenagers.
Yep.
Like, in fact, I've got some artwork from here. So, let's see what else. I love Mr. Magoo. That's my favorite. Mr. Magoo from the classic 1950s. The Cantankerous, Mr. Magoo, the shorts. The 7-minute UPA shorts from the 50s. And that's my favorite character.
Really? That's great.
Yeah, and I liked working on Metamorphosis, which was about Greek mythology. It was a Japanese company named Sanrio who created Hello Kitty, I think. And they came to America in the mid-70s, and they wanted to do an animated feature. And they got hooked up with the wrong people. But they did the feature, but it didn't have any story. It was Greek mythology. I love mythology, so I was one of the first things I did full animation on. I loved working on it because it was full animation. And I had guys there who were old-time animators, Disney's great guys that helped me a lot, and I learned a lot. So I like that. I can't think of really much. The Smurfs was,
Yeah, that's a pretty good list.
Yeah.
the Smurfs was fun because there were circles and stuff, and that's what you can really animate that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's probably about it. Now tonight at midnight, I might have 10 more things to tell you. I won't call you.
Yeah, no, that's a great list. Here's my last question, which is, are you surprised, or do you have any thoughts about why, at this point in popular culture, Scooby-Doo is the Hanna-Barbera franchise that might be the best known, or the one that really stands out? You know, coming from your perspective of, you guys worked on a ton of shows. Scooby-Doo was just another one you liked, and there's so many other great. You have the Jetsons, you have the Flintstones.
To me, it was just another show.
Yeah.
But I think they've done so many of them. The kids are used to seeing so many of them. It's like, I mean, Flintstones, I love the Flintstones, the early ones. The first 3 episodes were the greatest. Then the Disney animators came over and they were started refining them and selling with them. And they took all the charm out of it, I thought. But Scooby, you know, little kids love it. Little kids like you guys grew up watching it. You love it. That's because, I mean, I love the Huck, Yogi, Quick Draw, early Flintstones, Rough and Ready, that stuff. Because it's nostalgic to me. I came home from grade school, I put that stuff on in the afternoon, I did my homework, I watched that stuff, right? Now I love Tom and Jerry, classic Tom and Jerry. I've got a cell hanging on the wall right over here from Heavenly Push, 1949, the original cell and background. I love. And I love Looney Tunes. What's better than Bugs Bunny and Porky and Daffy in the 40s? Those cartoons are genius. Bob Clampett, Tex Avery, I knew those guys. They were great guys. And the Disney stuff is always great, always great. But the stuff that's the most nostalgic, the stuff I love the most, is the stuff I grew up watching. And everything else is great, but I didn't grow up watching it. I saw it, but I saw it fucking really religiously. I watched it every day when I came home from school. And stuff, and that means the most to me. You guys obviously saw Scooby all the time. That's what it means the most for you. And I'm sure there's millions of other kids who are now young adults who grew up watching the same stuff and love the same stuff. I'm sure you run across those people all the time. The show, I mean, I wish I could say I cared more about it. I loved it more than I did, but to me, it was a show to work on, make a buck, pay the bills, and go on to the next thing, and have some fun. I always had some fun on it. My attitude was, if I'm animating, it's limited animation. Maybe today I could just do one drawing. It's going to be a great drawing. I really like, and I can get some guts into it. I can enjoy that one drawing, and that's going to make it for today. I'm not going to go into anything. I'm working on junk. Why am I doing this? Why defeat yourself out of the gate? Find something good. I'm all about positive thinking, man. Positive thinking. So, but I can see where Scooby would be very popular. probably today because probably more kids have seen Scooby and grown up with Scooby than any other.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
There's
Yeah.
so many different incarnations of Scooby,
Oh,
whether
yeah.
it's series or movies that, yeah.
And I know all the guys that have been doing them, like Spike Brandt and Tony Cervoni. I know both those guys really well. They are great artists. I mean, great. They could fit in with the guys back in the 40s. Tom and Jerry. They're that good. So they're wonderful guys. Too. Wonderful guys.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for answering those. I appreciate it. Cam, you
My
want
pleasure.
to take over?
Where
Yes.
have you been, Cam? I thought you were sleeping there. I didn't know what was going on.
Taking a nap. No. I'm just here to you know what? I love hearing your stories, and believe it or not, I tell Will, Nikki, and Wendy this all the time. If I could travel back to one point in time, I'd go back to Hanna-Barbera Studios. I mean, I'd probably get thrown in jail for trying to steal everything. But the point is, though, it was just beautiful. I mean, I don't know. I grew up on Hanna-Barbera.
I get a tear in my eye every time I drive down that street and go past the old studio building. It was like a high school to me. I grew up there. And it's not there anymore. It's just like, oh man, I don't avoid the street if I can, because I just don't want to revisit that. But man, I had a blast and a half there. A blast and a half. I mean, I drank my brains out when I was drinking. I got to draw. I got paid good money. I got to direct. I ended up directing and producing. I met Bob Clampett, Bill and Joe, Tex Avery, all the greats of the great golden era. They were all great guys. I'm doing what I love. How do you get that money? Most people, I can't count on one hand the people I know who love what they do. I've been so blessed. And then to get this disease, it has opened the door to me meeting people all over the world. I go to these Zoom meetings and people from all over the world call me because they think I have the silver bullet for the disease. I don't, but I have a great attitude, and hopefully I can give them something back. I can pay back all the wonderful stuff that was done for me. Now I can really pay back and pay back with some meaning. I'm really happy with it. Anyway, Cameron, that doesn't answer your question because I don't even remember what your question was.
No. Hey, you know what? You have a wonderful attitude, and we love talking to you.
Well, you guys can call me anytime you want. Anytime you want.
Oh, good. Hey, we probably will.
So who has the? Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. What were you gonna say, sir?
I was just gonna say, who has the most Scooby stuff?
Probably
Cameron.
Cameron.
No,
Cameron?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, we know. We'll answer for you. It's Cam.
Yeah.
Cameron.
What's the most obscure Scooby thing, and what's the most expensive Scooby thing? That's a question for maybe a month from now.
No, I'm glad you're asking.
The most expensive thing is probably that Cameron. None of us have it, but that 24 karat gold Scooby-Doo pin or pendant.
Well, I got 10 of them in the closet. You want one? No.
Oh my goodness.
Pendant, huh?
You know, I probably should be saying this on camera, but probably the most obscure thing is I have a big life-size statue of Scooby-Doo, and he's sitting in my garage. And
Was it one of the Warner Store things? That they
I don't know,
or?
to be honest with you. I don't know where he came from, but I got one, and I love him. And like I said, I probably shouldn't be saying this on camera, kicking myself in the butt. But you know, I love that, and he's one of the coolest collectibles. One
That's
of the most
great.
expensive collectibles I think I've ever purchased is it was used. It was used on a what am I trying to say? It was used on a show called Cajun Pawn Stars, and you know that show, okay?
Didn't the Pawn Stars guy go down to the Cajun guy's place? The guy in Vegas went down to the Cajun guy's place. I thought maybe not. I don't know. I could begin to mix it. But I think I heard
maybe. But you're right. But there was a show in Louisiana. I forgot which town it was, but in Louisiana, and I traveled there. Good Lord, Cameron. But in Louisiana, there was a show called Cajun Pawn Stars, and there was a shop, and people would come in, and they would just. It was such a cool show. Well, I'm actually really good friends with Scott Innes, the guy who voiced Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and Scrappy.
Uh-huh.
And and he was telling me about, he did an episode on there, and I said, really? He said, yeah. And so, and I watched the episode, and there was this metal ride along mystery machine, and it was actually Pepsi only created a handful of them, and there's really not that many. And so Scott signed this one and anything, but anyways, it was on the episode. And for the longest time, ever since I was a little kid, I knew about it before Scott told me about it. So I'd always call up the Cajun Pawn Star shop, and I would just drive that guy nuts. And finally one day I called him up. He said, I know who you are. You've called me all these years. He was like, and it's for sale. He was like, I'll give you to the end of the week. If you can come down here and pick it up, you come down here and pick it up. And I said, okay. So I made a road trip. I live in Texas. So I made like 4 or 5 hour road trip just to go pick it up. And he goes, you are a crazy, crazy collector to do this. And I said, I know, but I said, I don't know. I saw that when I was a kid. I want that so much. And just to be able to go pick it up was just, I don't know.
Keep
So
talking. Keep talking. I'm going to get something off the wall I want to show you.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. But yeah, that was my most obscure and most expensive, to answer your question. So, yeah. I will say, me and Nikki and Wendy have been collecting ever since we were little kids. Wouldn't y'all agree?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you want to see this?
Oh, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Now buckle up.
Oh, wow.
This is the original cell and background from the end credits of the Flintstones. The very first year, they were sponsored by Winston cigarettes. And Fred's holding a Winston cigarette in his fingers. It's the original cell and background.
That is so cool.
It's probably the only one in existence. The guy came over here and offered me $10,000 for it. I said, no, it's my childhood, man. I can't give that up.
Good for you. Good for you for keeping it. That's amazing.
Yeah, this is one of my prime pieces. This one. I thought you should see it before you do this.
Oh, thank you for showing us. That's wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That's really cool. I forget. We talked about it quite a while ago, but the four of us were talking about trying to collect these animation cells,
Right.
whether they just be Hanna-Barbera or Scooby-Doo. And my Lord, you want to talk about dropping some money now?
And that's from episode number 7 where they buy a diner. Oh, no, they go to the horse races and they don't bet on the races is the deal. And this is Fred playing pool, the original selling background.
Wow.
1960.
That's really cool.
Wow.
Now, the problem with collecting the cells and backgrounds and artwork is there's not much original stuff left anymore. When you do find it, you usually sell it for collection.
Yeah.
Do you want to see the Tom and Jerry?
Sure.
Yes, please.
This is a cartoon called Heavenly Pit.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
And that's the conductor, Tom and Jerry, on the back of the train, and it's giving them one ticket to heaven.
That's priceless. Look at that. Oh my goodness.
Love it.
Great.
You don't find this stuff anywhere.
Have some awesome pieces, that's for sure. Cells,
Well,
original
I'm glad to
storyboards.
I'm glad to share them with you guys. Most people don't know what they are. I don't know what my favorite piece would be. I also like old Hollywood. You guys like old movies and old Hollywood and that, or just Scooby? I'm a big W.C. Fields fan. You know who he was?
Sounds familiar.
The Bank Dick.
Yeah.
My Little Chickadee and all that stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
And you know who John Barrymore was?
Yes.
Drew Barrymore's grandfather.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they were both Herculean drunks, Fields and Barrymore. And this author, Gene Fowler, who wrote Goodnight Sweet Prince about John Barrymore, and he was a screenwriter in Hollywood for years, back in the mid-30s. I have a flask that is a silver flask that's engraved from W.C. Fields to John Barrymore. The Fields gave to Barrymore back in the mid-30s. And I have a lot of original letters that Fields wrote to various people.
Wow.
And they're funny letters because they were written to his drunk friends. Not the his favorite fan letter that he received. It was his favorite fan letter. And I got a hold of it to a friend of mine. It was written by a woman, and it says, "Dear Mr. Fields, you may be a nice man in person, but do stop making movies. They stink. Yours truly." And then the woman signed her name to it. He thought that was the greatest. He thought it was just absolutely great. But, yeah, I mean, you got to collect something. What the hell?
Yeah.
If you're having fun doing it, why not?
Amen to that.
Agreed.
Well, hey, I got a couple questions for you. So
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get them in.
So, okay, this is my one question. I was when Nikki said we need to get some questions together, this was pondering in the back of my mind, and I've always wondered this. How was it working at? I mean, I know you love Hanna-Barbera Studios. You told us that, but how was it transitioning from Hanna-Barbera Studios over to Warner Brothers when y'all were working on these cartoons? Did you stay at Hanna-Barbera Studios? I mean, I know we've heard from other people, like when Hanna-Barbera was transitioning to Warner Brothers, the building was still there and they were still trying to get stuff over. Were you still working at Hanna-Barbera Studios, or did you go over to the Warner Brothers?
No, I was at Warner's. The Warner's was out in the valley. They had a building out in the valley. I was working at Warner's. Hanna-Barbera still had the main building there, and they were still where Cartoon Network was in there. And so I really wish that they had moved everybody back to Hanna-Barbera, but they didn't. They moved us to the ranch, which is the part of the Warner Ranch up the street from Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank. It was great because they had a little back lot there, and the sets for I Dream of Jeannie, the house was there. Bewitched house was there. Dennis the Menace and Mr. Wilson's house was there. In fact, the day we moved onto that lot, I walked over to the Mr. Wilson house, and I looked around, and all of a sudden I go, "Hello, Mr. Wilson!" And this painter's in the back of the house, knows exactly what I'm doing. He goes, "Get the hell out of here!" And he comes out laughing, and we talked about Dennis and Menace and all that stuff. But it was great because there was some nostalgia. I mean, you get to walk around the lot. There were these houses that had been in all the things I grew up watching. I loved Dennis and Menace when I was a kid. I loved the comic books. It was one of the few comics I really loved and collected. And the Bewitched house, and I Dream of Jeannie, and the Christmas National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation house was there. And the Walton's house was there. There was a bunch of stuff. So it was fun to walk around that lot. So I loved working there. But as far as working in a studio, when Hanna-Barbera was in its heyday, it was in its late 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was a great place to work because it felt like a cartoon studio. It smelled like a cartoon studio. If there's such thing as smell, because you've got the paints, you're mixing the paints, you've got all this stuff for that, and the chemicals for the film and all that stuff. It was like a cartoon studio. People drawing gag drawings of people all the time, pulling jokes on people. It just felt like a cartoon studio. And I thought, I'm lucky to be here because one of these days, it's like when MGM closed down MGM and they tore up the back lots and they threw all this stuff away. They had an auction, it was 1970. And I went to the auction you bought the auction books, and for a solid 2 weeks, you could go to every lot. There were 3 lots or 4 lots of MGM. You could go to every lot and walk around every street, the St. Louis Street, the New York Street. Everything that you grew up watching in those old movies was there. And you could walk on all those lots and spend all day there looking at the stuff they're going to auction, right? Well, I couldn't afford any of the stuff to buy, but it was going to, $100 was a fortune in those things. But I walked around every one of those lots for every day of those 2 weeks because I knew this is going down. And when it's gone forever. It will only live in my memory. Thank God I have that memory. To live there. Thank God I have the memory of going to Hanna-Barbera for all those years at bicycle when I was an impressionable kid, and I got the stuff for free. I didn't have to buy it. I didn't have to figure out how to pay for it. I got it off for free because they would throw it away because they were just making ends meet. They had to, they closed down MGM and they had to do something to revitalize the business or they were going to go down too. And they came up with unlimited animation. They came up with funny stories, big cartoon characters, big colors, big shapes, things that kids could relate to. And they saved the industry by coming up with Huck and Yogi and Flintstone and all that and Nothing Really. They saved the industry because Warner's had just closed down. Sleeping Beauty had a massive layoff at Disney. They were all to do. And they, Hanna-Barbera sold so much stuff, they opened the way for 3 or 4 other studios to start. And we got back on the ground again. If it had closed down, you wouldn't be talking to me now.
Yeah.
I'd be dead probably, or I'd be a grease monkey pumping gas into somebody's car. That's all I'm qualified to do probably. And so, you know, you gotta, I mean, just so grateful that, man, I found that studio. I had thousands of cells. I never paid for one of them. I got to do what I wanted to do. I learned to draw. I went to art school. I got to work with some of the greatest names, like Bob Clampett, the greatest, absolutely the greatest. His Warner cartoons, I don't know if you've ever seen his Warner cartoons, but you should look at them because they are great. There's one, it's called Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs. It's a takeoff on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And he told me one day, he was a big jazz fan, and he went down to Washington Boulevard in Los Angeles, where all the jazz clubs were in the 40s, all the black jazz clubs. And he befriended, the black musicians befriended him and invited him backstage. And he got to know these guys. And he told them, he said, look, I want to do a cartoon using black musicians, using you guys for the voices and for the music. Let's do a cartoon. I'll direct it. And you guys will collaborate on every aspect of it. And they came up with this cartoon called Coal Black because Snow White was the biggest grossing animated film at the time. They came up with this cartoon called Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs. And people say it's very racial. Whoopi Goldberg absolutely adores it and wants it released because they've squashed it, but you can find it on YouTube. If you guys go and look at it, it is incredible. It's probably the best single 7-minute cartoon ever made. It's really incredible. It's Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs. Look for it on YouTube. You can find it. But I mean, I got to meet Bob Clampett. And Bob Clampett, I would ride down to his office when I was going home from work. He was in Hollywood. I would leave Hanna-Barbera, drive through Hollywood, drive down to Redondo Beach, where I lived. I would stop at his office, and he would be having lunch. And he'd invite me to sit down. He'd give me half of his tuna fish sandwich. He'd say, here's a couple of quarters. Go get a seat of Coke, and let's sit down and talk. What are you doing, Tim? What are you drawing? What are you having? He wanted to know what I was doing. He didn't want to talk about his cartoons. I wanted to talk about. You want to know, what am I doing? What's going on with you? What are you doing? That's great. And the point is, he would encourage me. He'd encourage me to get involved in stuff. Do what you're doing what you love to do. So get better at it. Practice. Get better at it. All those guys were like that. I'm so blessed with knowing those guys. Work what I did. Had those sales. Had the collections I've had. Jeez, it's like one guy should not be this lucky. Not this lucky. And to get this disease, I mean, sure, I could fold my tent, crawled under a rock and said, forget it, I'm done. I'm not going to do that. I got grandkids. I have a grandson who's autistic, who I love to death. He's 4 years old. I have a new grandbaby that my daughter named Walker James Davenport. I think that name is great. I love that name. He's only a month old today. And I did that drawing of the lion and the tiger and the Black Panther film. I've just been so blessed my whole life. And you guys have been blessed too. You guys, you're collecting what you love. Isn't that wonderful? You love that stuff. I respect you for doing it, and I admire you for doing it. And look on the bright side, man. A guy came in one day, the other day, and he was to a meeting I was going to, and he was singing. He said, God, I just got this song on tape in my head, REM song. Let's see, in the world as we know it. Let's see. And I said, Mickey, why don't you put this one on? It's a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. Listen to that and tell me which song is better. I know I'm on this high horse tonight, but I don't understand people get it. It's such a wonderful world. It's such a great thing. live it every ounce of it while you can, if you can, because it's going to end so quick. 6 months ago, I was 18. What happened? I'm 73. What happened? It just went by. But it went by with so much. I was having such a good time, I didn't notice it. That's how it went by. Anyway, anything else you guys want to ask me?
Cameron, anything else?
Yeah, sorry. I just got captured in your story. I loved it. I guess my other question for you is, I mean, and I know you said on here that, Scooby-Doo wasn't your favorite, but what's the biggest, most important thing that you gained from working on the Scooby-Doo franchise?
A dollar sign, a bank account, food in my mouth, a roof over my head. Cameron, are you getting the point?
Yes, sir. Got it.
I'm being honest, though. I'm being honest. I mean, it paid. I never. I can't say I ever thought about working on most of the films I worked on about whether it was good. Is it a great film? Was it? And I grew up loving the cartoons I saw, and I loved them, and I thought they were great and all that. And it never carried over into what I was doing. It was always kind of, I enjoyed the work. Sometimes it was a great scene, and I had a good time doing it. Other times it was like, oh, all right. I'll tell you one little story. As I told you before, I used to sit next to a guy named Willis Jones. He was a great Disney animator, but he was one of those B or C animators. He'd work on Donald Duck and Chip and Dale, Mickey and Goofy back in the 40s and 50s, when the big guns are working on Peter Pan and Cinderella and all that. Well, he could have worked on those, but he got put on the shorts, and he liked the shorts anyway. Anyway, I would come in to my cubicle, it was right next to his, and you could look over the cubicles right there. They're about maybe 5.5 feet, 6 inches long. And I'd go out, and he used to sail. He liked to sail. Those guys like to sail boats, fly. These are guys that grew up in the 30s and 40s and 50s. They're animating at Disney's and Jimmy, and they're sailing ships. They have boats that sail in Catalina, and hobby man ranches in the valley. They have airplanes and stuff. So I'd come in and I'd look over and go, "Come on aboard, Skipper. Come on aboard, Skipper." And he'd look up and he'd, "Come on aboard, lad. Come on aboard." And I'd sit down at my desk and we'd animate. All these 10 guys would show up in this cubicle before lunch. And, "Yeah, I got my brown bag, boys." I'm so wanting to get in that club, but the old guys, there's no way you were getting in. So I didn't even try. I just enjoyed the passing parade. And then we'd be at the end of the day, and I'd look over at both. "Go on the side, Skipper, over the side. Over the side, lads. See you in the morning." I would give half of this collection to be able to do that tomorrow. To be able to get in the car and go and say that one more time. Because you know what? All those guys were here for all those years. And one day I looked up and they were all gone.
Yeah.
Like Irv Spence. Irv Spence was the greatest. He was a genius animator. He did Tom and Jerry stuff that was unbelievable. Wild, wacky, squashing stuff, wild, and the nicest guy in the world. And he didn't look like an animator. He looked like the vice president of the bank. He'd wear gray slacks, blue turtleneck sweater, a gray overcoat, coat. He looked like he was dressing for the bank. He didn't look like an animator. And I would give my IT to be able to say hi to him and do one more scene of assistant. But you got to understand. Like one day I was at Disney Studios. The school I went to had a thing with the Disney Studios where you could go to the studio and use their facilities. Well, I went to the studio one day. Have you ever heard of the 9 Old Men? They're the guys that do the animation. They're the lead animators, and all the other animators work underneath them. Milt Kahl, Ward Kimball, John Lonsberry, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnson, Eric Larson, Mark Davis. All those guys were at the studio and they were still working. I went to each door. I knocked on each door. I just introduced myself. I shook hands with each one of them so I could say I met each one of them. And I did it one day. I just did it. So, in other words, if you get the opportunity arises, don't second guess it. Just do it. You're not drunk or you're not imposing on anybody. You just want to say hello and whatever. Thank you for what you did. You just do it. And you'll be amazed at how friendly most of those people are. And they enjoy being recognized, I think. So life is full of opportunities. You take them or you don't. Some of us take them and some of us don't. And I guess that's it. So look at this. Look at the people that didn't show up tonight. There's probably 45 people who would have showed up here tonight, but they didn't. But you guys did. Look what you got out of this. Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you got it. Cameron is a little confused. He's asleep.
No, I'm not asleep.
I know you're not. Cameron, you can't believe anything I'm saying. You know, don't you know that by now? God golly. So I wish I had one great story to top this whole thing off. I'm trying to think of any story.
I will have to say one thing.
Yes, please do.
Your stories are just making me feel like I was born in the wrong era. Like I wish I was born in the well, you know what? Let me back it up real quick. I wish I was born in the hang on. Yes, I wish I was born in the 60s. And I think I would have been like 10 years old coming up in the 70s. So I really could have like been there when Scooby-Doo like was, you know. So, but yeah, wow. Man, I wish I was born.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you do for a living?
Me? Oh,
Yeah.
I own my own cattle feeding business.
Did I hear the magic word own?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm amenable for any steaks you want to send me.
Okay. I'll send you some steaks.
You know what? You gotta look at it. You can't because look at when I was in animation, I thought animation was just gonna get better and better and better, and we were gonna be looking at phenomenal films better than Fantasia, better than all that. When I got into the business, but it didn't. It went the other way because they couldn't make money doing the expensive way. They had to come up with a cheap way to do it. So I just realized, well, if I can't do full animation the way I want to do it, I can do a good drawing, or 2 good drawings to it, really make them good, and that's enough for me. And be grateful that I had them. So you got to be grateful for what you got. You appear to be healthy. Are you married? Do you have a family?
Oh no, sir, I'm single, so no one's putting
Well,
on.
boy, you really got it made. The owner, you got steaks.
I would people always say you're single. You can save that money. I'm like, no, all my money goes to Scooby-Doo merchandise. So that's out the window.
Aren't you? You must be totally grateful that you own a business that supports you to spend that money on that stuff.
I'm very blessed, sir.
That's a great. You are. That's a great thing. And you have me for a friend now. You can call me anytime you want. Any of you guys ever want to call me anytime you want. Just remind me where you talk to me, and I'll hang up. No, I should have been a comedy writer. I should have been.
You should have.
My wife tells me that all the time. I go, no one's gonna listen to me.
Hey, it's not too late to go do stand-up comedy.
You know what? I could do when I'm doing that stand-up comedy. My opening act is gonna be like this. And I'm just gonna be standing there like this, right? And come on, get going. Wait a minute, hold on, I'm not done yet. Hold on. I gotta finish this banjo expos before I start. And I'll make sure that Cameron, you're in the front row when I have that.
Hey, just give me a ticket.
I need the laughs. I need the laughs. I used to have a lot of good one-liners, but man, I forgot about it. Anyway, Will, you got anything you want to ask me? Or Wendy?
I have one other question for you. I was just wondering, how did you meet Bob Nessler?
Oh, Bob Nessler is a real piece of work. He's a great guy. He really is. He's a funny guy. I met him at Disney, Hanna-Barbera. Bob would come in once in a while, and Jay Sarbury and Bill Kyle were our bosses and handed out the animation to us. And once in a while, when they wouldn't be there, Bob would hand out for them. I pretty much think that happened. And I think I met him at Hanna-Barbera, obviously. But I really got to know him when I was a supervising director of exposure sheets at Warner Brothers. I had a great job because nobody bothered me. I would do the whole Batman series. And I would get the guys to come and do the sheets for me. I would check the sheets, I'd make the changes, and I was fast and I was good. And everybody wanted me to work for it, everybody. I used to go to my boss, Howard, and I'd be pissed off about something. And I'd say, you know, Howard, I'm bad. Oh, no, you're not. And I'd say, you know, Howard, by the minute I leave your door of your office, before I get to the front door of the building, I'll have 10 phone calls on my phone. People will want me to work for them and know I quit here. And he goes, I know. And you threaten me with this every year 4 or 5 times. I'll get back to your desk and come over. And I said, I know, I love you too, Howard. So I used to say that to him all the time. And I still say it to him, we're still friends. I have great friends that I'm still friends with. Now, for some reason or another, I burned some bridges with some people that won't talk to me anymore. I don't know why. But those things happen, and nothing you can do about it. So the best thing is to move on. I have other friends that I have wonderful memories with. And I still see a lot of my life. Here's a good story. I'm working at Ralph Bakshi Productions on Heavy Traffic. So on Coonskin or Street Fighter, that was a good movie he made. Ralph Bakshi did Fritz the Cat, the first fourth X-rated cartoon kind of thing. I didn't work on Fritz. I worked on Heavy Traffic, which was an autobiography of Ralph. And then I worked on Coonskin. I worked for him for 5 years. Anyway, I was working for Ralph, and I was working with a guy named Ron Schofield in the same room. And Ron's wife used to come down and pick him up because they only had one car. They moved down here from San Francisco. Ron's wife comes in to pick him up one day, and my back is to her. And he says, "Tim, this is my wife, Susan." And I say hello. And I turned around and looked at her, and she was blonde hair, blue-eyed, drop dead gorgeous. And I just fell out of the chair. I was mad. I was mad. They never would have known I saw it. So, make a long story short, we kind of went our own way. I was married at the time. We went our own way. I got divorced. She got divorced. We had met up at Hanna-Barbera. We dated a little while, and we had a kind of a miscommunication. And we didn't date anymore. And I would see her once in a while at various studios, kind of like ships passing in the night. You'd see him, then you wouldn't see him again for 5 years. And I ached for her. I thought, God, she's living in New England with 6 kids and a big ranch. Here I'm finding out she's traveling back and forth to San Francisco, where she's from. And she would work at the little commercial studios that would do commercials and stuff during the off season. And she'd come back down to the because she was a great designer, and she would ink the models and stuff. And great ink. Anyway, fast forward to 1995. I'm sitting in my office one day. She comes to Warner Brothers looking for a job. She's still single. I'm single. And she's looking for a job. So she knew I was there. She didn't want to come and see me because she didn't want to think she was using her friendship to try to get a job. That's ridiculous. But anyway, she went to see a couple of guys, and then she ran into one of our mutual friends, Jerry Eisenberg, who you should interview because he was instrumental in Scooby-Doo. I can give you his information. So Jerry walks into my room, and right on his heels is Susan. Susan walks in, and I fall out of the chair again. And she says, "I'm looking for a character designer. It's not a job." "Really? Let me see your portfolio." I didn't need to see your portfolio. I just wanted to hang out. Stick it out. I'm looking at her portfolio. But finally, she leaves. By the time she got home, it was only a phone call and answer machine. We got the job starting Monday. With a long story short, now this is when I'm back still drinking and stuff. She comes and works on the crew. We're dancing. This crew is a wide open crew. We would all go to lunch on Fridays. We'd drink. Half the crew wouldn't come back on Fridays. But we always were on schedule. We did good shows, so they left us alone. One Friday, we were drinking in the office. We were playing music and dancing. And I danced right out of my office. I came up to her and said, "Susan, I can't take this anymore. I've been for 20 years. I can't take it anymore." And we hooked up and we got married in San Francisco in 2008. And I'll tell you this part, this kills me, this part, but if I'll get to it. The day I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, I had to go home and tell her. It was about a 5-mile trip to my house and the doctors. I had to go home and tell her. And the committee in my head tore me apart. Just tore me apart. I can't tell her. She didn't want to be in my head, and she can't do it. Because of that same woman, her father was dying of complications from Parkinson's disease. Well, I can't do it. I can't do it. How can I do this? I get home. She sees me. She runs up to me and looks at me with those beautiful blue eyes. She says, "What is it? What is it?" And I tell her. And she says to me, "I love you no matter what. You're my everything. I'm with you forever." I didn't get that lucky. How do you get that lucky? And the power of bringing yourself in your life. I'm sober. I have a great life. I've been one of the good guys, not one of the bad guys. I've been a bad guy for a while. turning you around, putting roots on my paper, doing good things for people. That's how you do it. That's exactly how you do it. So if something looks better on the other side, it usually isn't. You know, we're all blessed. You guys are blessed. We have wonderful collections that we like to do. We probably help a lot of people by collecting this stuff and sharing it with people. And we give a lot of positive things. And that's good. That's all that matters. That is all that matters. All the rest of this is garbage. It's just garbage. Find what you love. Like I told my kids, listen, I was lucky. I found cartoons when I was little. That's what I always wanted to do, and I did it. I lived a great life. Find what you love and go do it. Selling shoes, selling cars, being a musician, being an artist, being a grocer, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just find what you love to do and go do it. Life is too short to do everything else. And I think you guys are probably happy what you're doing because it shows in your collecting. I mean, you've got great collections. I mean, shoot, I wish I had a Flintstone collection like this. But I got a few things, but I won't show them to you. I got about 450,000 Flintstone things in the closet, all in one closet. No. Anyway, anything else I can help you with at all? Anything? Now,
Anybody have any other questions?
You guys will never forget this interview. This maniac got on here and took it over.
Can't top that.
No, we really appreciate all the time
My
that you've
pleasure.
given us
Absolutely,
and
my
your
pleasure.
stories and the all the artwork that you showed us. Your artwork is amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for coming
I will
on.
send you a copy of my, I'll show you, let me just get the book. I'll show you what my new book is. This is the newest book I've done. Well, it's not new. It's called Shaken, Not Broken, An Artist's Journey Through Hell, 50 Watercolors. And let me tell you who gave me the title for this book. A friend of mine, who's a rock star, a famous rock star who's been in hiding for 30 years. Steve Perry, the lead singer of Journey, he gave me the title for this book.
Oh, wow.
He's a great guy, great guy.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
this is the, let me show you. Here's some of
Wow.
there's some ballet guys. It's just 50 watercolors. I'm going to show you. I did these because I had to prove to myself I could still draw the female figure. Here's a couple of.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
And there's one page that I really like. It came out really good. But I am just so grateful that I can do anything. This page here.
Wow.
It's amazing.
I'm really proud of these pages.
They're incredible.
You know, it reminds me of the old saying, God created man and then he rested. God created Eve and we haven't had a moment's rest ever since. Anyway, there's a lot of that kind of stuff, and there's some, I love the musicians. I love the jazz musicians.
Yes, awesome.
Wow.
I never know what I'm going to draw. I just start doing something. But this is my version of Superman.
That's great.
Or Batman. I mean, Batman.
Great.
And all the guys who worked on Batman, the animated adventure and all that, they wanted to do my Batman because they thought it was funnier. Let's do a cartoon, come on.
I don't have a question, but I would really like to say something because
Yes.
I want you to know that beyond what you have given people with working in animation, which already, in my opinion, is something immeasurably valuable, because I mean, I'm 35 and I have spent my life loving these cartoons. These cartoons are they're not just a part of my memory. They are part of what made me the person that I am. The Hanna-Barbera, we talk all the time about how the shows were so wholesome, and you can tell that there was passion and effort put into making those shows for kids, so that it was something that you didn't fear showing it to your children. It was okay to show it to them. They were going to get something positive out of it, and adults could enjoy it too. All of these years later, I'm still watching them, and I still love them just as much, if not more, than I did when I was a kid. So I feel like already what you spent your life doing is beyond admirable, because you've already spent it giving back to people that you won't meet most of them, but millions upon millions of children that have turned into adults and have kids of their own. You have touched them in ways that you will never even know how much you've helped them. But beyond that, you are an absolute inspiration. And I don't want you to leave here not knowing that you are a very inspiring person. I think anyone would benefit from hearing your story, whether they love animation or not, because everyone struggles,
It's very kind of you to say that. And one thing I probably haven't said that I want to say right now is we never, never, never give up, ever, ever, no matter what it is. You never give up. I could have given up when I got this disease so easily. And look what's happened since I didn't. The whole world has opened up. I've done artwork I never even thought I was capable of doing. I've met wonderful friends. You guys are now my friends. You can call me. Any one of you guys can call me anytime you want. Ask me any question you want, anytime. And so I've been blessed. And I think you guys have been too. And we're lucky. And she said something about working on something. I lost it. It comes back now. But anyway, anybody else got anything wonderful to say about me? Because I don't. Anyway, thank you, Wendy. That was very sweet of you to say that. I appreciate it very much. I really do. A lot of joking and kidding, and I have a lot of fun all the time. I try to have people I talk to and work with have fun. To be serious, and I'm very thankful for what you said. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're thankful for you, and
it's been my pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to really hear your story, because you know, people see what comes out in the cartoons, and that's it. We don't see the backstories. We don't really even know who the people are that are working on the shows. You know, we know because we do the research on it. We want to know your stories. We want to know about your careers. But
you know, I got a feeling. Let me just say this real quick before I forget. I got a feeling, you know, maybe I was a little more interested in the show when I worked on it way back when. I didn't realize it. Maybe it meant a little more to me than I thought it did, and that showed in my work. But I didn't realize it at the time. I think that's about as smart an answer I could have anything all day today. And read a book and still not give you a smart answer. But anyway, yeah, Nikki, thank you.
Yeah, I think that people will definitely benefit from your story. It's you know, it's amazing. Like everything that you've overcome is so amazing. Just the person that you are. You're great. You're great to talk to. When I first talked to you, we talked for 11 minutes, and you gave me so much information in those 11 minutes, and it's just incredible.
I never thought in a million years, I'd have anything to say that would mean anything to anybody. Now, apparently, I've got a lot to say that means a lot to a lot of people. And again, I'm only talking about me because I don't know about anybody else, but I'm a drunk. I'm an alcoholic. And I take care of that by going to Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a great life because of that. And I apply what I learned there to what's affected me physically. It tells me to be grateful, acceptance, and gratitude. Acceptance and gratitude. I accept those two horrible diseases. I'm grateful for anything that I can do, anything that I can get down on a piece of paper. I'm grateful for it. And I pass that information on to other people, and it's helping people that I don't even know. And I'm just so pleased with that. I wouldn't trade this for anything in the world, because nothing is fulfilling as this, is to be of service to people, to help people. My God, that's all it's all about. That's what it's all about. Just think of the joy that people get when they come into your houses and they see your collectibles. They see all the Scooby stuff. They bring their kids to see it or whatever. And their kids recognize it because they've seen Scooby. That's a beautiful thing. And you're sharing with those people. That's a great, great thing, man. You can't, there's no price on that. No price at all. So, anyhow. And I'm gonna have to go to bed and put a cool towel on my forehead. I'm gonna start believing some of this stuff I'm saying. Oh gosh.
Thank you very much for the time. This was great. Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm available anytime you want to do it. Well, I've had a wonderful time. I'm not kidding. I had a great time. I relived some great old memories. And if you guys got something out of it, all the better.
Oh, absolutely.
We did,
And,
yeah.
if you ever want me again, anytime.
Thank you
Well,
so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure meeting you four wonderful adults. And I'm happy to death that you like what I did. And I was a small part of a great big organization that did the thing. And I've had more fun doing this than you guys can imagine. So anytime you want to do it again, please don't hesitate to call me. And if you want to talk to me about anything else, call me. Okay?
Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you guys.
much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
And as I like to say to people nowadays, I go, waving, not shaking. Waving. After 18 years, not shaking. No Parkinson's. Waving, not shaking. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, guys. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another Scooby panel. I'm Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com. If you like these panels, please subscribe to my channel for more great discussions. A very special thank you to animation artist James Tim Walker, artist and Scooby fan Will Davenport, artist, blogger, and Scooby collector Wendy BRYDGE, and Cameron Bates from Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too. Scooby and Shaggy were voiced by Scott Innes. Check out Scott's website, onescottshop.com. Scooby Panel is available in podcast form on most podcast platforms, or as a web series on YouTube. If you would like to support the Scooby Panel, please go to patreon.com/ScoobyAddicts, where you can find bonus content that is only available to Patreon subscribers. Scooby Addicts artwork by Will Davenport, video editing by Nikki Blake, music composed and performed by Bovine Nightmares. Please join us next time for another Scooby Panel.